The podcast on Haunted Hill will contain spoilers and swearing.
I am the devil, and I am here to do the devil's work.
Please help us, Michael. Be one of us.
I didn't tell you my name.
Hang up.
I didn't tell them my name.
They're all a part of it. They're all parts of it.
Come. It is time to keep your appointment.
Hello and welcome to the podcast on Haunted Hill, episode 170. My name is Gav.
My name's Dan, and I am in my birthday suit.
And I can see that. It's strange, though, really, why you should be in the suit when I am also in my suit. It means we're both in our birthday suits.
Well, yeah, and there's a reason for that, isn't there, Gav?
Well, it's my birthday. Does that mean, because it's my birthday, you can be in your birthday suit? Because it's kind of like
Absolutely.
Nude Sundays.
Yeah, baby.
Nude day. Sarah and I have nude day. We just spend the day nude around the
Brilliant.
house. We don't. It's a joke. No, honestly, that one is a joke. I wouldn't say it's
Right.
a joke otherwise.
170.
Hello.
This is our episode for Gav's birthday.
It is. Happy birthday to me. I shall
Happy
cry
birthday to you.
all over
Another
the place.
year older, another year wiser.
Definitely, like an owl. Hoot.
And if it's your birthday, you cry you want to,
Yeah.
and also go shorty, it's your birthday.
It is my birthday.
Well, for anyone who doesn't know, if you're new to the podcast, welcome front. If this is your regular listener, welcome back.
Welcome back.
And if you just pop in and out,
Ooh.
welcome sideways. But for anyone who doesn't know, and just to remind anyone who does, for the birthday episode, the birthday boy, the nude birthday boy, gets to pick the films. It's kind of like our own little patron, although we pick
Nude boy. I'm
pick
oiled up
everything.
nude boy.
Yeah, that's right. The weirdest superhero
You're like,
ever.
yeah, that's right.
By day, he is a music producer for hip-hop, Sean Coombs. But at night, he becomes naked, oiled-up boy.
Oh.
Yeah, baby. No, shouldn't say that. Actually.
No, baby.
Especially with a baby in it.
No babies.
Yeah, well, we won't get into what they do. But, yes, Gav, you've selected two completely random films, as is often the case. You know, I can't talk.
As is my brain.
I've made us watch RoboCop, Labyrinth, you name it, for birthday specials. You've made us watch Charles Bronson and what other stuff. So rather than me tell our viewers, our listeners, what we're reviewing, why don't you tell us the two films you've selected for us?
It's one of those things. It's quite a prestigious moment when you realise that you have essentially a patron episode where you can choose your own episode, and I can see where patrons, you lovable lot, I can see where it comes from when you become a bit like I don't know what to do, and you tell Danny you're a bit stuck of ideas, and it is a bit like that. I had different things. I want to get things which have good conversation possibly, but then sometimes I just will watch a movie and go, I want to do that. And these two, whatever reason, came up. And I was like, that's the most weirdest pairing. And one's claymation, really, really good claymation as well. Like, well up there, like Wallace and Gromit style. And that's Chuck Still, Night of the Trampires, which is not Gav Chucky Still. It's just a coincidence, in fact. This played at Fright Fest, but I didn't see it, and I just was like, what the fuck is this? And kind of ignored it for quite a few years, and then got on it, and we're getting onto that. And the other one I chose, really randomly, and we've not done one yet, James Bond, but not Connery, it's after Connery, post me, so it's post Connery. And it is on Her Majesty's Secret Service with I tell you what, I'm an actor, I'll do it. I'll play James Bond. I've got my haircut, I look like Sean Connery, suit tailored. What do you reckon? Yeah, you do. Great, let's go. Don't know what I'm doing. George Lazenby.
Yeah, George Lazenby, Kiwi from New Zealand. So Chuck Steele, Night of the Trampires from 2018. It's kind of like if you wanted to know what Lethal Weapon or Cobra would be like if they also took place in a John Carpenter style zombie vampire invasion.
Set in 86 as well.
Set in the 80s. But then
Actually,
you got
86.
Aardman. But then Aardman Animations came in and said, I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll animate this for you. So you kind of got that Team America style thing going on with it as well.
Yeah.
But then they sprinkle over the top of it and the Naked Gun sort of Leslie Nielsen type humour as well. It's just absolutely batshit. It's the first time I'd seen it, so I'll hold off on revealing
It's a lot to go through, and this is gonna be a long episode, guys. So buckle in. We're gonna have a short intro, I think, for this one.
Yeah.
I've done the most notes I've ever done. I was scrolling through my notes of the Bond movie, and I was like, "Oh my god, my hand's just flicking the notes from page to page."
And to set you all up, on Her Majesty's Secret Service does make a lot of Bond fans' top 3 films.
It's quite
some
unique,
even say
isn't
it's the
it?
best. Yeah, it was the only one George Lazenby did, and we'll come get into that when we talk about it. But it's also very unique for lots of ways. Bond gets married in it. It's very dark at times. It also
Craig David era. Craig David. Ooh, on Mondays, Craig David.
Daniel Craig
era. Basically, they looked. I think all the movies they looked at specifically out and went, yeah.
And also was the blueprint for all the Roger Moore movies to come after it, and all the Austin Powers movies, and Enter the Dragon, and a bunch of other stuff as well.
The sneaky jokes are in there, aren't they?
Yeah. So a lot of fun to be had with it, but it's also cinematically fantastic and definitely in my top 3, But again, we'll get into all of that. But first of all, Gav, happy birthday!
Thank you.
You're getting a bit older.
Yep.
How are things? Have you got any more elements?
My balls have got down to.
God.
I'm tucking them into my socks now.
Good Lord.
It's got that bad. The balls have got that long.
RJ McCready's ticking this off on his bingo card now, because usually you mention either your penis or somebody else's, or testicles, usually yours. So that's good that you've ticked that one off on the bingo card there.
I don't know, nothing else really. I did get older, but it's a bit weird because I'm still hitting the gym, and it doesn't seem to be a phase of like one of my things I go through when I'm obsessed for a moment. I'm still out doing that, which is strange to be hitting it so later in life. But
that's fine.
But yeah, it's good to get strength a bit sore today from it. But apart from that, nothing's different. I'm more broke than probably last year, which is always great.
I think everybody is really, apart from Donald Trump. But let's not get there.
Yeah. Apart from that, everything's good.
I
had a really great weekend for my birthday. The kids were really good. They actually spent time with me. My eldest actually spent time with me. Even the kitchen went, "Do you want a hand with the roast dinner?" It's like, yeah, all right, can you get this? And it was like, wow, they actually spent pretty much the whole time with me. And this weekend I've just been with them. Didn't see one of them pretty much all weekend.
That's lovely.
Occasionally I'd say to her, "Can you stop smoking cigarettes?" And that was about it.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
You know which one that was as well, don't you?
I do, yeah. Talking of getting old, I had a wonderful moment at about 5:30 this morning with my boy. I'd slept in the children's room, as is often the case, and I woke up at sort of about 5:30. He begged, "Let's go downstairs, Daddy." "All right, come on then." So I said, "I'm just going to do a quick wee." So I did a sit-down wee because it's early in the morning.
You don't have to give an excuse for a sit-down wee.
No, I do. 80% of my wees are sit-down wees, if I'm honest with you.
I've generally in the house with women all the time, so it's just always been like...
But as I sat down, I didn't even know I'd done it. And Jack sort of put his hand on my knee while I was doing my wee and said to me, "Daddy, when you sit down, why do you go, like that?" And I said, "Well, I'm getting older, Jack." And he said, "What's older? Why's getting older? What's mean?" I said, "Well,
oh my God,
my beard's
here we go, son. Sit down."
And then he said, "Will your beard fall out? Will all your hair fall out?" And I said, "Well, it might do one day, yeah." And he went, "Yeah, people die."
Yeah, there you go.
That was the start of my day. That was 5:30 in the morning. So,
Right, Jack, I said people die. Right, let's get going for the day. See what's going to happen.
Let's go and watch cartoons. Fucking hell, he's 3. Little bastard. Gav, it's your birthday episode, so I'll let you start. What have you been watching? We haven't got a lot to discuss because we're keen to jump into the reviews. But
I haven't really seen that much. I started watching last night Clash of Titans. Charlie was really tired and was like, I'm going to go now after the Medusa part, and went to bed. And Elijah went, it's quite boring, isn't it?
It is.
And I was like...
I think the worst thing about that film is Liam Neeson's accent.
Liam Neeson?
Yeah, Clash of the Titans.
No, the original Clash of the Titans.
Oh, thank God. I thought you were talking about the...
No, stop motion animation.
Oh, the original, Ray Harryhausen.
Yeah, that's great. But and Elijah just at one point thought it was a bit boring. I was like, okay. And towards the end, Act 4 was just up to Kraken. And they went, I'm going now. It's because Charlie went, so all of a sudden he just went, oh, someone can go. I'm going to go. And it's just like, I only thought you would. I picked up on Blu-ray the other day. So it's really great to see it in such high quality.
Little segue there, because one of Chuck Steele's battle cries at one point when he's fighting some of the Trampires, he shouts out, Harryhausen! Don't know if he picks up on that.
No, there's too much in that. Yeah. Apart from that, nothing really. Started second season of Squid Games, and that's pretty enjoyable. Watched that with Elijah.
Well, there's one movie that you can also talk about with me, because it's been quite a few years since I saw it, and I sat down and watched Nothing But Trouble the other night.
Yes, and I only watched it. What was it?
Halloweens.
Yeah, it's a couple months ago. Yeah. What did you think then? I'd only seen it once when I was I hired it out from the video shop down the road, literally down the road in the same road, and wandered back to my house to go, what the hell is this? I remember watching it and being like, this is kind of weird, and I was like, I understand. I know like the hip hop crew and stuff because at that age, I was just like, I know Chevy Chase and Demi Moore, and I just know all these people. Demi Moore from Ghost, and because this was like when it came out, and it was really weird, but I kind of liked it, but I was just like, I don't really like it enough that I really want to see it again. It's a weird film because it's nice and dark. It's got some good humour. There's some quite comical bits and weird bits, and it's just so many good actors like of that generation.
Yeah, you've got Demi Moore, John Candy, Chevy Chase, Dan Aykroyd. Dan Aykroyd plays a couple of roles in it and directs it, which he really struggled with because he was in heavy makeup for both of the roles he played. He played one of the giant babies and Penis Nose 100-year-old judge, which, guys, I'm not making this up, if you haven't seen it, it's worth a watch. And John Candy plays brother and sister in it, so he's got 2 roles in it. He's in drag in it. And you've got Tupac and the the Humpty in the
but Tupac just as a little extra. This is nothing. He's just kind of looking around
he was in that crew as well, though.
But he's totally amateur if you watch him. It's quite funny.
Awful.
Yeah,
he's miming to a song while he sings and stuff, and it's a really crazy film. And
it's such a
horror
movie,
on a true story.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Dan Aykroyd's dad broke down in the middle of nowhere once and got dragged to some federal office at midnight and had to go through a weird regime, and it was kind of like Dan Aykroyd started thinking about what that would make a great film, and obviously he started with it. What's interesting about it is everyone who's in it kind of disowns it, Demi and everybody, but it's grown a bit of a cult following only really in the last 10 years.
Yeah, it's definitely
this is an old film, but it's got a lot of parallels to Haunted Honeymoon, which we covered, because they're both one-time only directors. Obviously, Gene Wilder directed Haunted Honeymoon. Both star a larger fellow in drag, Dom DeLuise and John Candy in this, and they both had big fallings out with people that were in the cast. Both got absolutely panned by the box office, and both Dan Aykroyd and Gene Wilder never directed again after that experience. And they do kind of feel like they are in the same universe, actually, because it's kind of like the humour is dark and off to the left somewhere, and you're not quite sure if you should be laughing or what you're laughing at.
It's because of obviously the direction. It's they're going for this thing on script, on paper. It is quite a dark horror comedy, but like when it comes out with Dan Aykroyd directing it, it's a bit, like you say, what should I be doing? Should I be laughing? Should I not be?
The biggest thing about it is it's the first film that Chevy Chase sadly became known as a bit of a dickhead. Apparently he was an asshole to everybody on set John Candy said, I'll never work with him again. Dan Aykroyd didn't really bother with him, speaking to him much after that. And, Demi Moore apparently locked herself in a trailer in between takes because she didn't want to speak to him. And not great. But I really enjoyed it because I rented it, much like you. My family rented it because we're huge John Candy, Dan Aykroyd fans, as a lot of families were in the sort of late 80s, early 90s. We didn't know what the hell we were renting. And I hadn't seen it since then for probably about 10 years ago. So I watched it about twice maybe, and it's like a weird fever dream. You kind of forget that there's a guy with a dick for a nose and horrible hot dogs and Demi Moore and weird roller coasters and ghost houses. It's just fucking strange, but I enjoyed it.
Indeed.
And I know you're a big fan of it, but
I would say I recommend it if you could. Very quickly, just to finish on that, and we get going. I get to this point now where I'm hunting and praying that I'm going to find a movie that I've never seen before. Amazon Prime does it great. They always sort of bring movies like, what the hell is this? And I keep finding them here and there, like a movie from the 80s or 90s, and it's like an action or something with my actors which I really like, and you go back to then, and there's so many like, that one, that guy's in that, and so it's nice to find that. And this movie is kind of that because it's got all those people. If you've not seen it, it's nice to see all those guys.
No one really ever talks about it either.
No.
But there's two more movies I wanted to cover really quickly. One of them is The Pope's Exorcist. Have you got around to seeing this yet?
I still haven't seen it.
It's on Netflix. Yeah, it's just hit Netflix like a week or so ago.
I might hit up this weekend. I'm off to see Sarah. So.
All I'm going to say about it is Russell Crowe is fucking awesome in it. He speaks Italian in it. He's got an Italian accent in it, and he's having a lot of fun. Now,
pizza.
Much like Chuck Steele, if
like
you
that.
ever wanted to see,
Is it like that?
No, he's much better than that. But thinking of Chuck Steele, take Lethal Weapon, but make Murtaugh an exorcist. Give him a new partner who's a bit, doesn't really approve of what's going on, that kind of thing. And it's like an 80s, because I think it's set in the 80s? I can't remember when it's set now, but it's like a buddy cop, but buddy exorcist.
Oh, that sounds even better. You sold it.
So Russell Crowe is this grizzled old, every time he goes to the Vatican, they're like, look, every time you do an exorcism, it's all over the press, people die, you've got to keep it under control, this is your last exorcism. And he's like, I don't give a fuck, I work for the God. If God wants me to do it, he's my boss, not you. And he sort of throws his crucifix down and like, all right, you got one more mission. And then they pair him up with his younger exorcist, and they're like, look, there's another case we want you to go, and it's all about this main case with this little boy.
That sounds brilliant.
Yeah, I don't want to oversell it, but
no, I was going to watch it. I like Russell Crowe. I was going to watch anyway.
The weird thing is, he did 2 Exorcist films. He did another one called The Exorcism.
No, that was done before Pope's Exorcist, right? Apparently very, very bad. And
I've heard it's terrible, yeah.
And it was made very, very cheaply, and they just cashed in on it. I don't think it was actually called anything to do with The Exorcist, and they changed the name once this had come out. So you could probably avoid it. I'm going.
But The Pope's Exorcist, great stuff. And then the last film I wanted to mention before we dive into... I was going to say Gav Steele, but you're Chuck Steele, is Blink Twice.
Oh, yeah.
Or AKA Diddy Island.
Yeah. It's all right, isn't it?
I am surprised that it's been allowed to be...
Well, it's funny when it came out, the timing was good.
Yeah. Well, it's directed by Zoe Kravitz, who's Lenny Kravitz's daughter.
And obviously
they've both been at these Diddy parties.
Yeah, she was seeing stuff.
Yeah, and it's Channing Tatum is incredible in it. Yeah. It's very much like a bit of a Get Out vibe.
Is it horrible that bit when they realise, without spoiling it, they and all of a sudden the flashback sort of thing, they realise like, fuck.
Yeah, and then you're waiting for the other people to realise as well.
And they do at times, don't they? Yeah.
But really good performances in it, and
that's very assured direction for the first time director.
Haley Joel Osment as a little chubby bearded guy getting stoned, which is weird.
He sees stoned people.
Incredible, he does. It's incredible cinematography. Some people don't like the ending. I kind of like the ending, really. Very sort of feminist film, and just overall, just really, really enjoyed Blink Twice. One of the best films I've seen in the last couple of months.
What about Blink 182?
I enjoyed that one, but it's all the small things. Mm. That's a little joke there.
Yeah.
All the small things.
Oh God.
Come on.
No.
Come on. Look,
No.
Gav, I know want to get them off your chest, so let's get the ball rolling before we go into our trailer. You've got
what,
a
do you want me
Sean
to moan
Connery
about
joke.
stuff?
You've got a Sean
What?
Connery joke.
What does Sean Connery eat? No, I've done this joke before if you're a long-time listener.
Just so you're aware, guys, Gav's, even though it's George Lazenby that we're reviewing
It
today,
doesn't matter.
he's got some Sean Connery jokes. Go on then. What does he eat?
Goulash.
Lovely.
Goulash.
I've got one, and then we'll go into a trailer for Night of the Trampires. Sean Connery was trying to do some DIY at home, and he was seen with a big bump on his head. He said, "What's happened?" He said, "Well, all these books fell on my head." And they said, what do you mean all the books fell on your head? Didn't you put the shelves up right? And he said, "I've only got my shelf to blame."
Oh, yes, it's a good one, that. I've only got my shelf to blame.
There we go. Poor old Sean, bless him.
I've only got my shelf
Not
to
really.
blame.
He's apparently horrible woman hating. He used to slap women around. So there we go.
Yeah.
That's a lovely little note for us to leave on.
Yay!
You want to be shaken and not... No, let's not joke about it. Gav, should we go into a trailer for Chuck Steele, Night of the Trampires?
Yeah, I was about to do a Majesty's Secret Service. Chuck Steele, Night of the Trampires. Let's go.
Works. It works.
Officer Chuck Steele is the best goddamn cop on the force.
Get out of my face.
Yeah! Do you have any idea how much damage you caused?
He's respectful to his superiors.
Face or balls. Yeah! Jesus!
He has a way with the public.
Hi, I'm Chuck Steele.
And he works alone.
I work alone.
But when an ancient curse descends on the city of angels, this maverick, renegade, loose cannon, lone wolf, cop on the edge, finds himself in a world of pain.
Oh, give me a fucking break!
Now, with the help of an expert in the occult
But have you ever heard of Trampires?
and a series of dedicated partners,
Name's Kozlowski, sir. Okay, Giggles, you're up.
Chuck has 24 hours to save the governor, the city, and perhaps his soul.
To hell with that! I ain't no goddamn clown!
This year, don't miss the most diverse film ever made. White people, black people, Asians, men, women, men,
I am seriously not happy about this.
and this guy. When mankind comes under attack, it's time to go on the offensive.
Call for backup, lesbian! Nobody teabags Abraham Van Rental. Work hard, eat your greens, and never stick your dick in a mangle. Wait, what?
In a world gone mad, only one man has the balls to stand up to the bullshit.
When are you gonna tell me what the fuck is going on here?
Chuck Steele is a cop on the edge, and he's about to step off.
The master will make you pay for this! Come on! Eat my justice!
Chuck Steele, Night of the Trampires.
Go fuck yourself.
I was enjoying that.
Chuck Steele, Night of the Trampires from 2018, rated 15. A nice tidy hour and 30 minutes. We like it nice and tidy. It's not 1985 anymore, it's 1986, and Chuck Steele is the best goddamn cop on the force according to his long-suffering boss, Captain Jack Shit. But even this maverick, renegade, loose cannon, lone wolf cop on the edge who doesn't play by the rules and has his work cut out when the governor of LA decides to reduce the licensing hours for clubs and bars, triggering a sudden inexplicable spate of high-profile disappearances in the city. The disappearances all have the same thing in common: a crime scene covered in blood with no sign of the victim. Sorry if you've got ADHD and you can't keep up. Just try and stay with me. The police are perplexed until they get a break in the case when one of the victims manages to escape. Chuck goes to interview the victim at the hospital, but is confronted by a crazed old man who introduces himself as Abraham Van Rentel. He warns a disbelieving Chuck that an evil scourge is about to descend onto the city of Los Angeles. The scourge of the Trampires, a mutated hybrid of vampire and tramp.
That's probably the longest synopsis we've read out.
I told you it's going to be a long episode, guys. I told you it's going to be a long episode.
Yeah.
To the
directed and written by Mike Moore, that one.
If you're like, what the fuck, I literally just started thinking about my groceries or shopping or something. Basically, there's this kind of Lethal Weapon type sort of inspired cop with like a kind of Peter Vincent from Fright Night character, and they just go after these tramps who are vampires who have over time, actually Dracula and all the vampires over time, slowly out of resources, have just had to drink booze, have turned into these kind of booze trampires things. That's essentially what's going on, and there's just chaos, isn't it?
So a couple of things there. Yeah, so the word tramp, and they do explain this in the film. Obviously, the word tramp in the UK or in England means like a homeless person or a hobo, but it can also be like a drunken person. Sadly, a lot of homeless people are drunk. Whereas in America, tramp is quite often like a derogatory term for a woman who might be a little bit easier or slutty. Trying to keep it PC.
Loose.
But also, this is a British production, but set in LA and taking the mickey out of, whilst paying homage to all those 80s action films that you love, and then just throwing in essentially a vampire / zombie plague, but even as Gav read that out, then you can already appreciate some of the jokes in there, like Trampire, and instead of Abraham Van Helsing, he's called Abraham Van Rental, which is just, every time they said it, that just made me smile for some reason. And then, his boss is called Jack Shit, Jack, and that's shit as in SCHITT. So his boss is called Jack Shit, and he's your usual sort of African-American boss, ripping you a new asshole because you've blown up half a city block trying to, catch the bad guys. And he's very funny in it as well. And they really play on his name quite a lot as well. Yeah, it's just, if you like your Naked Gun and your Police Squad jokes, the jokes come thick and fast, but throw in all the horror and the action references as well. There's even some silly little like Knight Rider-y type things, and I don't know, it's just got it all. But this was my first watch of it. I'd only heard of it through Gav. And like I said, it's a British thing, directed and written by Mike Mort. He managed to pull in Paul Whitehouse, who's a very funny British comedian, an actor, and Jennifer Saunders, that a lot of people will know from French and Saunders, but also an actress in her own right, to do some of the voices in it. It's all claymation, very well done stuff. Must have taken a couple of years to animate, and just a lot of fun, really. Probably not as PC as it could be, but we're not really here for that. We're here for the fun. So, fuck it. Here we are, Gav. Why did you pick this? Tell me. Why did you love it?
Don't know. I watched it and I was like, oh man, that's like the horror movie, the best horror movie that I never saw. And it was just so well done, though. It's just so good. And it was just like, just the gag, like when he's chatting up the receptionist, she's basically blowing him off the whole time and he's not getting it, but he is really getting it. He's just not letting her notice because he just says one word to her when all of a sudden some shit happens. She just looks and says, lesbian, call the cops, or whatever like that. Just throwing that out because she said no to him, he all of a sudden just throws that in there like that, and it's just that sort of humour is just like, that's brilliant. It's just, I don't know, it's just like, it's so mental. What cocaine was this? The pink cocaine that they do at P. Diddy parties? What made you think of this movie?
It kind of has that Jack Burton sort of sense of humour with it.
It's me and you, basically. It's all of our love from the movies we watched in the 80s, and they've gone, I don't know, let's make a claymation movie. Like, how long does that take? It must have taken so long to make, but like...
and also, it reminds me a bit of the other guys, you know, The Rock and Mark Wahlberg, I think it's them that die at the beginning of that movie. No, it's The Rock and Samuel L. Jackson. It's kind of like them, you know, they're the badasses. They know they're the badasses, and they play on it. And he is the badass and can get away with anything, much like Mel Gibson did in all the Lethal Weapon movies. But this really takes the piss.
It's a commentary and satire on basically all the cliches of 80s movies which we loved. It's what Expendables is doing, but they're doing it again as an action movie. This is it, but this is all like the fun shit from the 80s, which is just ridiculous.
What I should also mention is, if you want to watch this, you can actually see this on Freevee, which is a channel on Prime, for free. There's a couple of adverts in there, but if you want to just not pay for this...
At the moment in the UK as well.
Yeah, well, and it's on Freevee as well, which is how I saw it, which is on Prime, you've got to rent it, but on Freevee, you can just stream it for free.
Prime is free.
Yeah, through Freevee.
Oh,
there's a couple of adverts in there. Yeah, there's a couple of adverts in there.
Oh, I didn't
realise. It's on Prime too as well.
No,
though.
I thought it was just Prime. Yeah, sorry. Okay, you are correct.
But it's all good though, and so if anybody wants to watch this, that's how you can check it out. It's not really talked about, but Gav said it was at Fright Fest when this would have come out in 2018.
It's going to be a real cult thing. It's unfortunate, really, because like the Wallace and Gromit and stuff, because the art of doing claymation and how long it takes to do is just crazy. The determination, and then just to keep doing it. I'm sure you're not wealthy when you make claymation movies, because you can spend so many hours doing it, you know, and the dedication, and in this though, the same as like Wallace and Gromit ones, it just looks so fantastic. But unfortunately, Wallace and Gromit, yes, it gets a bit of a popular release, Christmas Day, like or Box Day. It had like the new movie, which was quite fun, so everyone could see it, sort of thing. But this, because of the nature of it being like slightly horror stuff, it's going to get the late night screenings, I'm sure, maybe on telly on Channel 4 or something, do you know what I mean? Maybe once in a while. But it's only like this podcast like us right now, letting people know about it. I'm sure at least one of our listeners will watch the film. So it's nice to do that, because then they might say, hey, have you seen this movie? And it carries on like that. And I hope all the love for all that devotion put into the claymation can come back, and viewers keep watching it as a cult hit over time. But unfortunately, because of its nature, I think that's the way to be with it. You're not going to get a main cinema release like a Wallace and Gromit Curse of the Were-Rabbit, I think, was
the only way you would is if someone like Tim Burton or something did it, because he's obviously we covered some of his animated
and you had
films,
say Brad Pitt doing the right voice of Chuck Steele or something like that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you had big names, you could, or like a big director. So I think
but I think that's probably,
it's a fucking fantastic film. It is directed very, very well. It's everything in it is fantastic.
And with claymation, you can do very quick and snappy action and almost cartoonish comedy, you know, so you can get away with doing things a lot more than you would in live action, and it just lends a little bit of character to it, because if this was animated, just cartoon, it wouldn't be the same, but because this is claymation, it really adds that. For anybody who used to watch the MTV celebrity death matches back in the day, you know, it's kind of got that vibe to it as well, you know. It's fun,
and the beauty of it is some of the stunts and stuff in this. Nowadays, if you're doing a proper movie, yes, it would be CGI and that. But back in the day, you did see a lot of crazy stunts which actually happened, and stunt people got killed. You know, especially like Australians, exploitation type stuff. But but with this, because it's claymation though, it's brilliant. They're like, right, we're going to have like this tanker turn sideways and Chuck Steele's car just fly up and do whatever, and he's surfing it and all this stuff which you're not going to be able to do nowadays, that's for sure.
There's also a heavy dose of Peter Jackson spooned into this as well, I think, with some of the splatter, but also there's a huge homage towards the end with one of the creatures as well, for anybody who's seen Brain Dead.
It's funny at the time though, I didn't think of Peter Jackson, which is so funny, because I just had every like 80s action film in my head sort of thing going on.
Yeah, it's fun. It's a fun one, and I'm more than happy to discuss it with you. I think that for everybody, I asked you a question, which is why you chose it, and you've given a very good answer there, which is basically you really enjoy it, but also it's a good opportunity for you to tell other people about it, because I think you wanted me to watch it, and this is
the way I got you to watch it. Yeah, and exactly, maybe you and I talk about I'm hoping you like it, but me and you talking about it might influence someone else to watch it. Let's get into it. Straight away, though, the score is epic, and it's a full orchestra score going on. You're like, wow, it's always nice when you have that.
My first words here are epic superhero style score.
Yeah,
it's got like this epic score to it all the way through it.
Yeah, totally.
It's really good, and when we get to the credits in a moment, because this movie's soundtrack is hair metal. Real 80s hair metal, and it just fucking works so well. Whenever there's a montage, you've got like, I'm the king of the world,
and just shit happening.
You're just like, this is great.
Go on, go for it.
No, I was going to say, but we don't start there. We start with a drunk couple.
It's like the beginning of Batman Origins, isn't it?
It is. Oh, poor Batman with his mummy and daddy. But anyway, there's no little boy in this. There's a drunken couple, man and lady, who venture out of a bar, and they're stumbling down a dark alley. They get a bit lost. Where are we? Don't know what's going on. All of a sudden, a very large, what we assume is probably a monster, attacks them, and Harold, the bloke, the man, gets bitten. The girl runs off. She's hit by a cop car as she's running away from the murder.
And we are going through this kind of quick. There's so much happens in this film. It was very hard to make notes. It's the first movie for a long time I've had to stop and go, pause, write some notes down, carry on playing, because it's like, man, this needs almost a second viewing.
But it's really every frame. There's stuff happening in every frame of this.
Yeah,
it's crazy, really.
So everything happened then is great, and it takes a little while, but we are going to shoot through it a little bit.
And then we get our epic 80s style credits.
Well, I like the fact that she's about to hit the cop car, and it just cuts to Chuck Steele credits.
Yeah, Night of the Drummer.
This real 80s guitar song setting the scene. Yeah.
And you've got all this kind of artwork, almost like this was a show, and these are the credits for a show that you watch every week. They've done it like that, haven't they?
Yeah. And then after the credits, it's just the first scene is basically helicopters, ninjas, explosions, kung fu, machine guns,
motorbike with a laser on it,
laser shooting motorbike. It's just, I was just like, I can't write notes quick enough.
Yeah. So this is kind of our introduction to Chuck, who is on a badass black motorbike that talks and has a laser on it.
He's a big, chiseled, muscled, blonde, wavy-haired action figure.
He's basically the DNA of Dolph Lundgren, Sylvester Stallone, and Mel Gibson in the 80s in their prime, mushed into one, isn't he?
Yeah, with a little Arnie. Yeah.
Of course, a little Arnie in there as well. Yeah. And he is, he's a...
I was about to say, we all want a little Arnie in this, but I don't know if that's the right thing to say.
There's a Japanese sort of ninja boss, and he's got a girl hostage, and he's got like 25 ninjas around him.
Loads of ninjas.
And Chuck drives, a helicopter arrives, and it's Chuck Steele, but he doesn't just jump out of the helicopter, does he?
No.
He rides his motorcycle out of the helicopter with a laser on the front of it, shooting at these ninjas.
It's kind of like the ridiculousness of Machete, when we saw him going up in the motorbike and stuff. Yeah.
He kills some ninjas. He jumps off the bike. He starts kung fu-ing some of the ninjas. Then, just to make it even better, his bike says, activating kill mode. And his bike can talk. And his bike
like
starts blasting. It can spin on the spot like Batman's Batmobile. And his bike is like Street Hawk or Knight Rider. Yeah. It's like, this guy's got it all, man. Kung fu moves, guns, lasers. So good. So good. He manages to get back on his bike, and he jumps from his bike onto the helicopter because the girl is now on board the helicopter. He catches the girl, and we get our first real homage here of cliffhanger, because he's hanging onto the ladder at the bottom of the helicopter. The girl, who we find out is his wife, she falls. He catches her, but then she really falls and we think she's dead, and
But
that's
we
a bit
don't
of a
know.
cliffhanger, isn't it?
And we wake up and
we
we just wake up and it's like, is this a dream or is this a flashback? Which we'll find out. And it's very Riggs waking up in his trailer on the beach, isn't it?
He's like, no, Mary, whatever her name is, Lucy, her name was, that was it. Yeah. And it's very Cobra. He's got a poster of himself on the wall in the Cobra position.
He's got his own gym and he's just working out, pumping iron.
Pumping iron till I'm coming all
do
the time.
Do it now.
And then he's got, just to make him even cooler, he's got like a Batcave style button that he presses, and his TV
behind
and all his cabinets.
Unit.
It all flips around, and he's got all these bazookas and knives and grenades.
Exactly
and
what you
busters.
imagine you'd have in the 80s movie. Like, there's just someone like they just got this arsenal of weapons, just flipping a button.
Although really, like Cobra, all he had was a pair. He didn't even have a fucking knife in his house. He had a pair of scissors for his pizza. So, not every 80s action icon had this, but.
No, and while this is going on TV in the background, because he's got Teddy around the side, it's just like the commissioner. Is it the commissioner? Talking away?
Yeah, the governor.
Governor's talking away and stuff, and he just shoots the TV and says, fucking clowns, all of them.
Yeah, because behind the governor, there are loads of clowns, and basically you've got this new governor who's cleaning up the town by reducing the opening hours of the bars, and he is heavily involved with this circus that he's going to be setting up a midnight circus to sort of promote, because he's just been elected to governor and stuff. So, that's kind of, we'll come back to that subplot. It's very integral to the end of this film. But the funny joke here is, after he shoots the TV, because we've seen this happen in a billion films, but we don't see the next thing, which is he opens the cupboard and there's like 25 TVs in there that have all been shot over the last year.
I missed it. I missed that.
He throws it in there with them all, and then he gets his asshole landlord banging on the door.
Another classic. Landlord's there and rent is due. Basically, and that's that. And we'll come back to that
I'll get
story.
you your goddamn rent. I'll get your goddamn rent for you.
That
And he's like,
plot is
did I
coming
hear
back.
a gunshot? Are you shooting televisions again, Chuck? And he's like, get out of my goddamn business. So funny. And then he goes to work.
Yep.
And he's been given a rookie cop partner. Again, another cliche, which we absolutely love.
It's such
one of
a
many
cliche.
partners he's going to get throughout this film, actually.
Yeah, well,
he's even going to get a monkey at some point.
Yeah. Well, he's given his new rookie, and he's basically his boss is Murtaugh from Lethal Weapon. Absolutely no doubt whatsoever.
But he's called Jack Shit.
Yeah, I don't know why, but he's jack shit. And for some reason, he's really slow changing transvestite, really, or transgender, isn't he? He just slowly changes.
He starts off in the first scene, he's got high heels on, and throughout every scene you see him in, he's got more and more women's clothing, which again probably isn't as PC as people would like, but there is a reason for it.
He's taking his time to change. That's right.
He says things like, "One more thing, but damn it!" And he's like, "What is it?" And he says, "Oh, go on."
Chuck Still's got his thing with him where he just says every time, balls or face, and every time after he finished talking, and he says, Tom, my wife keeps wondering why I've got blue balls in her face, and Chuck Still's punching him in the face. Don't know why. I don't know why his boss lets him do it, but it happens every time, and it's just like an ongoing gag, really. But we cut to breaking in a new rookie, which is always one which we have to have, don't we?
So he's basically told, if you don't have a partner, then you're not going to be a cop anymore. So he's this new rookie. Sort of, I've heard all about you.
Do you like
Chuck
the rookie
Still.
with Clint Eastwood and Charlie Sheen? Charlie Sheen's the rookie. Clint Eastwood's breaking him in.
I haven't seen it for a long time.
Clint Eastwood gets raped in it.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Clint Eastwood.
Yeah, he sat on a chair, and this Brazilian type lady, as far as I remember, when I was like 15, watched this game. What's happening? Oh,
bloody hell. Well, his advice, because the rookie says, "What's your advice?" His advice is, work hard, eat your greens, and never stick your dick in a mango.
He's basically
3 wise bits of advice.
Can we set the scene up though? They're going in this tunnel, and there's basically a car chase. He's chasing these bad guys who are in this other car. They're like bank robbers. They got like masks on their head, all that shit, and they're going along trying to get away. Chuck Still's there, but the whole time he's doing all of this whole chase, even getting out of the car to get on top of the car, he's telling the rookie all the stuff. So let's get one thing straight, kid. I don't like you. I don't like anybody. You think this is a tough exterior. And I'm a maverick and I'm a loose cannon. I'm a lone wolf. Don't play with rules and I work alone. Get it and get your affairs in order and just does all this just craziness. And he's like this little young, like, 16, 17-year-old. Like,
He even says to him, something else I should tell you is you better get your affairs in order. Maybe make sure you've got a will written because my partners don't tend to last too long, if you know what I'm saying. So this kid's thinking, what am I doing with this guy? And like you said, all the way through this, they're riding through a tunnel, jumping on and off of cars, shooting machine guns, back in the car, driving for a little bit. Tankers are blowing up. Things are spinning around them because they're chasing these guys who are shooting at them. They're like, oh my God, it's Chuck Steele, shoot him.
Yeah, so this is going on the whole time. He's just telling him, like, I work by myself. I don't have a partner. It's so funny. And then
it ends with the tanker full of petrol, doesn't it?
The
flips on its side.
The tanker goes sideways and the bad guys just drive into it and it explodes. And Chuck Steele's just... Yeah, what happens? He jumps up. He's in a car, isn't he?
Chuck Steele shoots a car... A van in front of a truck in front of him that's towing a Lamborghini. He shoots it, so the Lamborghini comes out the back of the trailer, and then he uses the Lamborghini to drive his car up it like a ramp, flies over the exploding tanker full of fuel, and basically takes out the bad guys.
Yeah.
And of course, when he gets back to the office, Captain Shit gives him an absolute roasting.
And he says,
God damn it, Steele.
Yeah, and he says to him, what happened to you? You used to be called. And there's a cuts to a picture of him with an afro, which is so Naked Gun. It's basically just him with a photo cut into one main photo, then like 5 photos going around it just to show the size of the afro. And each photo would be another bit of the afro. But in all, it's a picture of him if you step back. And it's so Lethal Weapon. Not Lethal Weapon. Naked Gun.
He says to him at this point, you've got a new assignment and a new partner, and here she is, and her name is Helga, I believe. Big Swedish partner.
And she sounds like Arnie.
Yeah, she's like... his therapist, played by Jennifer Saunders, Dr. Alex.
We find out his partner shot himself afterwards.
That's right.
Killed himself.
His therapist, again, Lethal Weapon, says to him,
oh God, yeah, he's a therapist.
Chuck, you haven't been in for a while. And he's like, I don't need to talk to you, she's like, everybody in the force sees me, and this is an important point. They're all coming to see me. And he's like, yeah, well, I don't need to speak to anybody about my feelings. My wife's dead and that's it. End of story. Let me do my job. And she's like, my door's always open. And that's Jennifer Saunders playing his therapist.
Very, very
he ignores
pretty.
her.
Go on.
No.
No, carry on what you're doing. Then I'll go back a bit. Carry on what you're saying. He calls her what?
Oh, I was just going to say he ignores her, and he's now saddled up with his Swedish partner.
And going back to the Swedish partner, he has a choice. And it's great, though, because he ends up having to go with all these choices because he goes through his partner so easily. He has a choice of a Swedish broad, a monkey, or a plant. An actual plant as a partner.
Yeah.
And he goes, the Swedish broad. And then this lady comes in and he's like, oh, brilliant. She says, oh, no, this is like my receptionist. Here's your person. And that's when the Arnie comes in.
She's absolutely massive.
And at this point, the boss is wearing red woman's shoes. And that's all at the moment. Because he gets punched in the groin and flies backwards.
And then he says, Chuck, before you leave, what? Does my ass look big in these jeans? And this is where he's really starting to start cross-dressing now.
Yeah.
Same speech is given to this new partner, Helga.
Huge person, like in Swedish, Lindenhose or whatever they're called.
Leidenhose,
and just looks perfectly like would be literally pulled out of Sweden or something, I don't know, something.
Well, they go to the hospital now at this point.
This is where he chats to the receptionist.
They've gone to speak to a survivor from the attack because while all this was going on, they did find the alleyway where Harold, right at the beginning scene, was killed, and the woman that he was with is in hospital. She's been bitten, but she's in hospital alive. So they go to the hospital, and this is where exactly the joke that you said earlier, where he calls the nurse a lesbian.
What he does, he's asked the whole time. She says, I'm busy. He says, Tuesday, and as I'm cutting my hair. Wednesday, and just she goes, I think you're trying to tell me something. And all of a sudden there's a scream, and he just looks to her and says, call for backup, lesbian. It's
I know, it's just so
funny. I found it quite funny. But he runs into the room to go, what's going on? And just finds basically Peter Vincent from Fright Night on top of a full body casted or like person with just a face showing, with his hand up about to stab them in the groin, it looks like.
Yeah.
Which we will find out.
And they take him off to interrogate him, and his name is Abraham Van Rentel, which is just, again, so funny, really. It shouldn't be, but it really is. And he tells him all about it.
He arrests him, and interrogates him.
He says, she's a Trampire, and he's like, what the hell's a Trampire? And he gives this whole backstory now where we find out that Dracula basically...
Black and white flashbacks to a proper Dracula in a castle, which is quite nice, actually.
And they're a sub-breed of vampires, and basically they are addicted to people who are pissed, are drunk all the time. So they can smell the blood, the alcohol in your blood, and they're only sort of, homeless tramps, but they're vampires as well. And he gives his whole entire backstory.
One reason, one note that Dracula gets from one of the localers, he looks down at us a note and it just says "fuck off, weirdo." That's so good,
And Chuck obviously says, "Are you seriously expecting me to believe this story about vampires that are trampires and bite people that are drunk?
They're only attracted to victims ripped to the tits."
Yeah. And they lock him up. They lock him in a cell.
We've got to say his accent is like, it's very, very English. It's very eccentric kind of thing going on.
Yeah. He is like Peter Vincent.
He's so Peter Vincent.
He then goes to see his boss to sort of speak to him about this, and his captain finds out he's not been seen as therapist, so he's absolutely furious, makes him go and speak to her. And the first part of his therapy with her is him just screaming for about a good solid minute.
She goes to say something and he goes, "Ah!" And that just continues because he does not want to have therapy. He's like Mel Gibson's character in Lethal Weapon.
And she says, look, what I'm trying to do, like I'm doing for everybody, because I'm giving everybody therapy in this police force, I'm trying to stop you from self-destructing, okay? So tell me about your wife. And he just sort of storms out angrily. All we know is his wife is dead, and he doesn't want to talk about it.
Igor walks just into a window, walks into a window and smashes it.
That's right.
Hits his boss in the balls, sends him flying.
As he often is the case.
Yeah.
And then it's nighttime, and we get him now staring at a photo of his wife.
We get a montage.
Montage time. And while he's staring at the photo of his wife, just like Riggs would do, we see other Trampire attacks happening outside.
Actual action happening outside. Yep.
Yeah, and on the TV we see the Governor Atkins with clowns, again talking.
And all of a sudden there's this motorbike. He's like, "Oh, it's my motorbike," with smoke around it, it's light, and just all of a sudden this sexy lady comes out with not much clothes on and starts sort of mounting the motorbike, looking at him. Then it changes.
Dr. Alex, his therapist, isn't it?
Oh, is it? And then it changes to, and it's Igor going, "Ah." It's so good.
What I love about this montage as well, just before he has this sexy dream, is he's even while he's doing his weights, then it cuts to him with a wooden man, which you would see in a lot of kung fu movies, and he's doing all the sort of kung fu on it as well. Do
you think this is what Craven and Devil Worshipping Doggers would have been?
Yeah.
This is that movie, isn't it?
This is that movie.
That's probably why I like it, because in my head, this is Craven.
And while all this is going on, he has this sexy dream. We can see that the numbers are growing. The horde of Trampires is growing throughout the city. They're taking out more and more people, and they're just gaining in numbers. Then we got his sexy motorbike dream, like you said. And then while he's having this sexy dream about his therapist, who then turns into Igor, Van Rentel manages to escape from the police cell, doesn't he?
Yep.
And the captain is almost fully cross-dressed at this point. He's wearing a dress at this point as well. Van Rentel goes back to the hospital because he needs to kill that woman that was a survivor. He sneaks in. I know, it's ridiculous. He sneaks in into the room, and just as he's about to kill her, she says, "But I can have power over you." And he's like, "Oh, don't be silly. I'm British. You can't hypnotize me with your Trampire ways." But of course, she does hypnotize him with her Trampire ways. But Truck interrupts. because he now believes Van Rental, and he's saying, you've got to stab them in the liver, because obviously they're drinking, they're alcoholics. So rather than stake them through the heart, you've got to stake them in the liver in this. And we get a great moment where he's like, what the hell's going on here? He opens the curtains, and then, much like in Let the Right One In, she bursts into flames in the hospital bed and sort of explodes and melts at the same time, really.
Yeah.
But she does have some final words, which is, the Master's coming and the Master will kill you all. The Master. And then explodes. And obviously Van Rental's like, oh gosh, she mentioned the Master. I've heard stories of this Master of the Trampires. And Chuck Still's like, what the hell's a Master? However, that's not the end of it, because they look at the sort of headless exploded corpse, and a bat flies out of the skull and bites the end of Chuck's nose.
Yep.
And then we get this hilarious sort of carry-on scene where he's running around trying to get this bat off of his nose, and it kind of ends with the cops coming in the room with Van Rental almost 69 in an exploded corpse.
No. So what happens is, before this happens, Eagle's there, and she comes in and she saves the day. Basically, she doesn't. She tries to save the day. She runs along to try to get a bat, and it kind of just accidentally just basically runs and straight out the window. But as she does it in slow motion, she looks at the still, and I don't know where her love comes from, but she goes, "I love you."
All women love him, Jack. All women love him.
I guess. And cut to Chuck Still, and he's like, in slow motion. It's so funny. And so basically, I want to say Peter Vincent, Van Rental. He basically was into a thing, flipped up, landed in the cast of the person in a 69 position with his head stuck in the cast where the legs are of the groin. He can't get out, so he's basically moving his head up and down, thrusting up and down, and it looks like it's a 69er going on, basically, with some face fucking to the point there, and the cops run in, and Still's trousers fall down just at that moment.
And an amazing line from Chuck Still as the bat flies at him for the final time. He kills it with a pencil, and he says, "Eat lead."
Yeah.
Eat lead. That's incredible. And it dies and obviously explodes. Yeah. So try and explain your way out of this one. Captain, who's now wearing a woman's wig, chews them out as he does, and Van Rental says, well, Chuck's been bitten and he will turn into a trampire by midnight if we don't do something about it. And he says, I don't... Go on.
No, carry on.
This is your birthday episode, please.
No, I was going to get into the whole new partner thing, but that's in a moment. Carry on. So,
just to take us to the next scene, because he's in so much trouble for this 69 blood all over the hospital room sort of thing, and he's hanging out with Van Rental,
and he's lost a partner again.
He's lost another partner, 2 already. Jack Shit says to him, I'm busting you down to security. You're going to work security at this midnight circus that's happening in town tonight for the governor. And he's like, God damn it. And he says, pick another partner. And this is where his new partner comes in.
The choices are a plant, literally a plant, which you water in a pot, a plant, which you're going to have to pick up and take with you. And I don't know what actual use of plants could be, or which could be useful, a chimpanzee called Giggles. And you go, okay, Giggles, you're up.
Monkey. Yep. So Giggles.
I actually think, though, Still and the monkey were a great partner, and he actually does at one point go, he's a great partner, just as, unfortunately, spoiler, Giggles gets it. But I think Still and Giggles have been a great double act.
And that's a kind of an homage in itself, isn't it, to Clint Eastwood, having Clyde the monkey.
Yeah.
So they go to a bar.
The plan is to get drunk. If they get drunk, the Trampires will come to them.
So they do. They get very, very, very drunk in a bar.
While they're doing that, and they're both getting shit-faced talking nonsense at the bar, both of them, it's quite a funny pairing. His landlord has broken into Still's place, and he finds something in a mirror which he breaks, which we don't actually... What is that he finds? Do we find out what that is?
Yeah, it's the goodbye letter from his wife, who isn't dead.
Right, and then he turns around, and there's a trampire gets the landlord.
Yes, so the landlord is
So now we know the landlord's happening. While Still's out with old Van Rental, they're getting, what does he say earlier? Ripped to the tits. Ripped to the tits!
While they're drinking, as is often the case in these films, they get to know each other and get to appreciate each other a bit more, their backstories, why they do what they do. And then when they're really, 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 really drunk, they say... Oh, yeah, then the monkey shits. I never thought I'd have to write this down. A monkey shits on the pool table. While they're drunk in the bar, the monkeys get drunk with them. And then the monkey just shits on the pool table and they're like, I think we better leave now.
And then the montage of them driving the car really crazily because they're really fucking drunk. They roll the car, it explodes, they get out of it, and Still actually looks a bit frightened because he's so pissed, going, running from the explosion. So Chuck, Still, Van Rental and a chimpanzee all pissed out of their face running from this exploding car. So what is going on?
And they're basically tramp hunting. They're going around trying to attract trampires to come and suck on them. And
they go to... Oh, later on, I do like the gimp policeman.
Yeah, I don't know where there's a gimp policeman.
We'll get to that. But they find a lady of the night. Lady of the night.
Yeah.
And she's like, $50 and the monkey can watch. But that's not what he wants. She's like, you guys into some kinky shit. Luckily, Elijah has no idea what any of this means. And they basically they dress Still up as a lady.
They do. They buy her clothes off of her and dress him up as a lady.
Dolph Lundgren could have done this movie. I feel like this is Dolph Lundgren's dream role.
And it's revealed, Van Rental says another good way to get rid of them is holy coffee. So instead of holy water, because they're drunk, these trampires, you throw holy coffee at them.
And I love the fact how fast a trampire is attracted to Chuck Still in a dress. Even Van Rental's like, I didn't even think it'd happen that quickly. Literally 1 second later.
He says, why do I have to wear the dress? And he's like, well, you've got better legs. And then he says, how long do you think this will take? And as he's finishing that sentence, the trampire just goes,
I didn't think it'd be that quick.
But the trampire steals a truck to drive away from him. They fight him.
Still has like silhouettes which go really high up to his leg kneecaps, black silhouettes. He's running, going, oh my God, these balls, trying to run onto the, jump into the truck, jumps into the truck. And he said, give me my clothes so I can change. And I jumped him back there.
So they're now on the back of this trampires, because the trampire doesn't know they've jumped on the back of the truck. So you've got Giggles, the monkey, Van Rental, and Chuck Still on the back of this truck.
It fit on ladies' clothing and fake boobs and everything.
And the truck pulls into the vampire's lair, which is an old junkyard.
Yeah.
And they've snuck in, and there's hundreds of them in there. And while they're hiding and sort of spying on what they're doing, they see the therapist, Dr. Alex, arrive, and he's like, oh my God, that's my therapist. And they realise she is the master.
She's the master.
That's really cool. She gives a really good speech to them all, saying, my plan to sabotage the LAPD through therapy is working. So her goal has been...
Take over the police.
Make all the police attend therapy and tell them all they need to cross-dress or become a gimp or whatever it is they're doing. One of them wears a nappy because he wants to get in touch with his inner child. She's basically corrupted all the police, so they're useless at their jobs. And then the trampires can then take over the city and not worry about getting stopped. And that's her plan. And she's very pleased that her plan is going very, very well. And then she says, and then tonight we will drink the blood of the Puritan. And they're thinking, well, who's the Puritan? And then they realise that the Puritan, they believe the Puritan is the governor because he's like been elected and everyone's praising him. And they're going to drink his blood at the circus at midnight. And then their plan will be complete and the whole city will be overrun with trampires.
It's quite Octopussy having a circus ender.
It is a bit Octopussy, another little Bond reference there. So it all happens at midnight at a circus. Trampires, Chuck Steele's in women's clothes. He's got a monkey partner and Van Rental with him, and they are ready. But
so they're like.
Are you going to talk about the pig now?
Yeah, they're hidden. They're basically the van's stuck, so they're just looking through the wooden grates. Nobody knows that they're in the back of the truck, so they can listen to this whole conversation going along. And all there's loads of Trampires around them, all these beasts, all these zombie type beasts everywhere, and they're just quietly listening. And all of a sudden, turn around and a pig has decided that it's going to have sex with Van Rental, and he doesn't like it.
He goes, oh dear.
Chuck Still's going, leave him to it, sort of thing, and Chuck he says, pull him off, and he says, I don't think he needs any help.
I know, that was a very good joke. But sadly, Chuck shoots the pig. Which alerts the Trampires.
The truck's moving back and forwards while the pig's like raping Van Rental. So then he's shot, and they all just look round, and it's just like, oh dear.
Yeah, and they get dragged out of the truck and brought before the master, who completely berates them.
It's our midpoint turn. They are captured.
She says to Chuck, I know all about your wife. She's not dead.
Yes.
And I've got her goodbye letter here from your landlord.
Yes.
Here it is. And she reads it out, which is just to make him feel even worse in front of all these Trampires and Van Rental and Giggles. And basically his wife said, You're too much of an egomaniac. I'm leaving you for a clown, and I'm running away to the circus to become a clown because I don't want to be with you anymore. I want to be with this clown.
I gotta say, that's probably going to mess with you a little bit. I've never had that a letter from a girlfriend saying that to me before. I don't know if Sarah's going to leave for a circus clown. I don't think so.
And all the Trampires obviously laugh at him, and he just feels like a kid at school when the bullies did something
bad
to you.
For him. They're all tied up, yeah. Then we cut to them sort of tied up, aren't they, in like a room sort of thing, and they're force-fed 3 bottles of whiskey. Oh, well, Van Rental is anyway.
Yeah, because they know that Chuck's going to turn into a Trampire at midnight. And again, this has kind of been done. You know, we know your friend's going to change, and you're going to kill your own friend at midnight when you turn into a Trampire.
Yeah, they sort of leave them to it, don't they? As they always do. They leave them tied up, thinking nothing's going to happen, and they'll be all right, and they just leave them to it. But luckily, Van Rental has been in training for a long time, and he cannot get drunk anymore. He can just pass booze straight through his system. With my training, I can pass booze straight through. And he sits there, just does
it's a bit
wee.
Messy. It does mean a bit messy, but you know.
And he has at one time drink, which is going to help Chuck Steele. And he says, "Why did you not give this to me before?" Well, you know, he just gives him this like little drink, doesn't it? Which helps him.
Yeah.
What's it do?
It helps him keep the transformation at bay for a few more hours.
Because he's been bitten by the bat. Yeah.
And then my next note says, Giggles the monkey then distracts everybody with a pig.
Yes, Giggles actually fucking helps them out as a first partner to actually do something good. Sends the pig out, which the beast one, which is looking after those two who are tied up, sees it, goes, because he's going to go and eat it, basically, eat the pig. He goes and gives the pig booze, which is really weird. He's got the pig and he's just putting booze down its neck so he can get drunk so he can eat it. Anyway, and then he turns around and he sees the monkey, so he runs back, but the monkey pukes. And the monster beast slips in it and still dives up and flips around. So his chair legs are pointing outwards. So the monster beast thing just flies down and gets like, you know, proper like vampire stake through the heart job going on with 4 chair legs. And then explodes, doesn't it? And still flies up for the camera like Die Hard 2, Bruce Willis, when he looks up at the camera from the ejector seat of the airplane. Exactly that shot. It just still comes up with this explosion behind him from the vampire just exploding. It's like, what is going on? I can't write notes quick enough.
But then the pig gets mutated into a big giant Trampire pig with wings and kills Giggles the monkey.
I know. He says, Giggles is a great monkey. He's been really good, and just dies.
Just dies instantly. And you start getting elements now, and we're getting into it more, of Dusk Till Dawn. There's a lot of Dusk Till Dawn-ness going on now, especially the last sort of big fight in the circus tent as well.
Yeah.
And they go up with Van Rental and they say, "We got to get to the circus." So off they go to the circus.
Well, no, they don't. Well, they go back to the apartment first.
Oh, they do. Well, Chuck gets his new partner.
And what happens though what happens to Van
He gets taken off by the pig.
It's so funny. He gets taken off by the pig, grabs him, then after eating the monkey, eating the monkey and killing the monkey, grabs him and it goes off, and his balls are just slapping on the top of his head as he flies away. The perfect sound effect, I promise you.
He says, I'd never been teabagged by a mutated Trampire pig before.
And just goes off the distance. You just hear the slapping of the balls. Then you see him again later. It's the ball slapping's the sound you hear first. And it's literally a perfect sound. I've never thought of what ball slapping on a head is the perfect sound. That is it.
Especially pigs' balls.
There must be more consistency or size.
They're big.
They would be big.
I take the kids to the farm sometimes and the big pigs lying down. And
you say, kids, look at those balls, those pigs.
I don't say that, but I do look at them and think, fuck me, there's some big balls on that pig. Jesus Christ.
Well, it's the best ball slapping sound effects I've ever heard in my life.
Well, Chuck goes back to his apartment to tool up.
Here's your new partner. And his new partner's already at the apartment, so that's good. It's a plant, though.
It's the last one in the... He's had them all. He's used them all up. He had the rookie, he had the Helga.
His boss. Murtaugh the boss.
And now it's just the plant.
It's given him...
Just a pot plant.
Yeah.
And while he's tooling up, the Trampire landlord arrives, and immediately his plant is killed and shot.
Yeah.
So the partners are lasting less.
And he looks around, he's annoyed because his partner's been killed, even though it's a plant.
He fights his landlord, and ironically, the landlord opens the cupboard, and one of the broken TVs that he shot falls out onto the landlord's head.
It is so good. The TV goes onto his head. Chuck still has a big long sword, pushes it straight into the head, so that's sticking out. Turns around, does a 360 jump kick, and it kicks the head off the body, which falls onto a red button, which is self-destruct for his layer, Steele's layer. It's like, what the hell's going on? Again, I'm trying to write notes as quick as I can.
Also, there's a really random
large vampire parrot.
The landlord's got a parrot, which was also bitten, and that attacks Chuck as well.
And it's gone massive. It's just like, what is going on? Yeah.
But Gav, if you have a lair like Batman, it's like, why don't I understand why they've got self-destruct? Like, Chuck's fucked himself here. Yeah. But anyway, his whole apartment explodes. He jumps out the window to get out of it.
He's blown out the window.
And then he wakes up. And that is such a Jackie Chan as well. I've seen that in so many Jackie Chan movies where Jackie would run. Behind the scenes, you see him... 3, 2, 1, run! And he runs, and they have to time the pyrotechnics with him going through the window, because that's how they do it in the Hong Kong movies. So I've seen that shot of a guy blown out of a window, and we've seen it in Hollywood movies as well. It's just so fun. You feel like you're watching all your favourite films merged into one, don't you?
Yeah. And he wakes up, and it's another movie of a favourite as well. He wakes up in a resistance place like the Running Man.
Yes, exactly. Or even like the guys in They Live, or the Resistance, that kind of thing. You've seen this before, and these are the anti-Trampire army, and these are the homeless people that haven't been bitten by Trampires, and they're the ones who want to fight back and get their name back up there, because everyone assumes Trampires are all going to bite you, and actually some of us tramps, we're just decent fellows who just want a couple of pennies so we can buy some cigarettes.
Stretch.
And he's shown around.
Do you like Stretch, the character called Stretch?
So Gav's referring to, he's being introduced to this army of resistance fighters, and one of them is called Stretch, and Stretch is called Stretch, Gav, isn't he? Because whenever he collects money, coins, he turns his back to the camera, and you hear like a ching ching. And the reason he's called Stretch is he keeps his spare change in his extremely baggy foreskin.
Yeah.
Wow.
The resistance putting wooden tips on top of his bullets. Just going past that. Yeah.
When they were writing this,
how did they come up with that? I have no idea. Why?
It's insane.
So they're putting wooden tip bullets on his bullets, modifying his gun slightly. And he's just showing around. It's very, very Running Man, if you know that scene.
It's also very, very Army of Darkness, because they show him a cave painting where he is the chosen one, and he meets Paul Whitehouse's character, the Wise One, who's this horrible, weird guy in a wheel skateboard thing with a candle on his head,
which is dripped down, and it just goes into a beard, which kind of you can't see any features apart from just a bit of a nose.
But talking to Dick Noses earlier, this is also, there's times where his nose is shaped like a penis, and the way the wax is dripping out of it, it's just very, very naughty, and they've got away with it in this. And the Chosen One says, you are the Chosen One, you're going to lead us all against the... So it's kind of like Blade as well, because he's been bitten, but he's not fully turned yet. So it's a lot of movies thrown into one, and off they go to the circus with the Resistance in a bus.
We're going to the circus, fudge suckers!
Yeah, and they've got a big bulldozer thing on the front of the bus, and all their weapons lined up.
Yeah, which we've seen we've seen the big bus sort of thing before. Yeah, so yeah.
And the press are all there at the circus, obviously, because it's a huge show, midnight, that the governor's putting on. It's all been organised. Chuck's driving this bulldozer along. Loads of famous and important and rich people are going to be there. And it's perfect for the Master, because the Master wants to turn everybody. Once she's turned the Puritan, they can turn everybody then, Van Rental, though, my next line says, Van Rental uses his crucifix on the pig's bollocks. Because he's still being flown along by this pig being teabagging him on his head. He sticks his crucifix against the pig's nuts. Then the pig, it sort of explodes and is impaled on top of the tent pole. And that is a good cue for the Trampires to start their rampage.
Yeah.
They start with killing the clowns. They just start taking everybody out.
We find out Still isn't actually the prophet. The concrete cracks away, and it's actually this other character who then parachutes into the scene, and he's like, "Hello, I'm here," and he's like really like stupid. It's really odd.
And then he dies immediately.
Yeah.
It gets a bit of a Monty Python sort of joke, I
but
guess.
Just before it happens, all the cops sign in where they are. All the different cops, like the green one, and you get the Gimp that signs in. He says, "Back passage, ready for action."
Yep. And by this point, the chief's got
Did you see him earlier in the police car, and he's just getting a blowjob from someone, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Elijah obviously just had the head bobbed off down. Elijah's just completely.
And by this point, Captain Jack Shit is fully dressed as a woman. He's even got big fake boobs.
He doesn't believe Still when Still's trying to say to him, they're going for the governor, and he's like, "Shut up, Still."
Yep. And we now just go into a huge action scene, really.
Yep.
Van Rental's got a bow and arrow, and he's actually being a badass. He's like Legolas in Lord of the Rings, taking out people with his arrows.
How about when this is going on, we've got Thingy flying the pig.
Who's flying the pig?
Is it Van Rental's flying the pig?
Oh, no, he's already exploded that.
Oh, okay. And he puts a cross on the pig's balls.
That's what I said.
Oh, sorry.
Crucifix on the nuts.
There's so much in this, it's hard to keep up.
And then the pig explodes. That kickstarts the action. Then
the Catherine wheel, when it's exploding, as the Catherine wheel going round and round.
The bulldozer arrives, and like we love in a Walking Dead and stuff like that, this bulldozer comes in and just takes out loads of Trampires straight away, and then it turns into a kind of dusk till dawn now, because everybody, all the goodies, the good tramps, jump off the bus, and they're all taking out these Trampires. Chuck's, opening fire on them with machine guns. There's a Van Rental's firing arrows at them. One of them hits.
There's a clown sawn in half.
Yep.
So, oh my god! Yeah.
There's kung fu. I've written kung fu, chainsaws, guns, and a rocket launcher. It's got it all.
It must have been like, to make this as claymation, must have been like, are you off your fucking rocker? And
there's hair metal playing all the way through this scene. There, it's a really exciting, fun scene as well. Jack Shit grabs a shotgun.
Some testicles are shot in the air, but still shoots the testicles. Like, just some testicles literally pop out of a cut in half body. So what is going on? Yeah.
And then a great payoff for the name Captain Jack Shit here, because Captain Jack is sneaking up on a Trampire, and one of the other cops is like, "It's me! Don't you recognise me? Don't you recognise me?" And Captain Jack says, and then he says, "Captain, he don't know Jack shit." And then Captain Jack shoots him and says, "He does now." And it's like, okay, you literally wrote his name so that you could get to this line an hour and 20 minutes later. Yeah. He don't know jack shit. He does now.
That's so good.
But it works, and it's brilliant.
You've got one of the other cops that says to the other cop, "I'm not going to make it. Tell my wife I never really loved her. I just wanted to get near her sister. Now you'll tell her yourself, son. Don't worry about it." It's so good.
I know. Normally they're like, "Tell my wife." Like,
I love her. Yeah, yeah.
But it's this time,
I never
tell my
loved
wife
her.
I never really loved her.
I wanted to get near her
I just
sister.
fancied her sister.
But then he says, "Don't worry, son. You'll tell her yourself." So good.
And then the master, off camera in the bus, mutates now into its true form, which is a huge tentacled creature which looks just like Lionel's mother from the end of Braindead. Big boobs and all, swinging around.
And Still's turned into a full-on vampire as well.
Yeah, so he's tramping out
And
like
the tongues out the boobs of the
tongues coming out the nipples.
Yeah.
And this is like again another film, 30 Days of Night, where at the end of it, Josh Hartnett sort of vamps out to be able to take out the other vamps. So he's using his Trampire strength to fight the master now. And there's just this massive battle, a massive fight. But then it turns out, because all the way through this film, Chuck's been saying to people, what about my theory about the lizard people that live really within, LA and Hollywood, and it's all being run by these lizard people. We've all heard this story. Well, it turns out it was right, because now the governor turns into his true form. He is actually a lizard person from another dimension, like an alien that's been living on Earth.
Yeah.
The lizard people of Earth.
A big slug comes out of the mouth like Poltergeist 2 and
so
transforms.
Now it turns into this giant lizard alien fighting the giant master monster.
It's two big monsters fighting each other, and it's like, what the hell? And Still's a vampire. It's like, what is going on?
And it's like Godzilla or something.
Still jumps on the neck of one of the monsters, just dives. I was like, what's he going to do? Just jumps on.
Well, this is where he shouts, Harryhausen!
Brilliant.
And he jumps in. He puts a cross in the master's mouth, who sort of melts and explodes everywhere, grabs a rocket launcher, and then he sees his wife, because obviously we're at the circus, and he sees his wife, and he's kind of distracted a little bit by his wife at this point. But then the lizard alien thing goes on the rampage. This is all like a fever dream. It's like we've dropped acid and we started recording a podcast.
I know.
And Chuck machine guns it, explodes it, kills it, and says, I hate politics, because obviously that was the governor. And then we get the epilogue.
And he goes to talk to his wife, and then her boyfriend turns up, who's a very short guy, and he basically just picks him up and eventually goes and puts him in a cannon and blows him up. Fires him out of a cannon.
Yeah. And because it was revealed that he wrote the letter, not her. She's like, I never wrote you a goodbye letter. And it was the clown, her new boyfriend, that wrote it.
And we do get a Ghostbusters ending, and we get all of his partners standing there waving, and then the chimpanzee breaks the plant and goes crazy as a ghost. It's like when he looks up and sees Obi-Wan Kenobi and all that stuff as a ghost in Star Wars.
Yeah, it's a Star Wars ending, they're all there like the Jedi.
Yeah, it's this, but the partners. It's so good.
And his wife actually does say to him, because he says about getting back with her, and she says, because all the way through this, he's told everybody it's best to work alone. She actually does say to him, face it, you work best alone. And she still doesn't get back with him.
No. And
that's
the aftermath, when they're tidying up, it actually looks like an actual film. Like, you're looking at it, you're like, that just looks like a movie of actors. That's incredible. So much detail. And then Van Rentel's like, there's another case still. Werewolf prostitutes. And Chuck Still just punches the air, and it cuts, and that's the end. And it just goes into 80s music. And I was like, what the fuck?
I really want to see Chuck Still versus the werewolf prostitutes.
I know.
I've got to see that.
I know. It won't happen, but I know. If you're listening, makers, Mike Mort, we should give you a round of applause for this movie.
Yeah.
Definitely. Please make that film for us.
You'll be pleased to know I super enjoyed it, Gav.
Oh, good. I'm glad. I didn't think we do have a very, very fondness of the 80s.
And we've got a similar brain and similar tastes.
Yeah.
This was really, really, really fun, silly. Now, this was my first watch, so actually I think I'll enjoy it more on my next watch when I'm not making notes and really picking it apart.
You pick up more gags.
But I did say to you before we recorded that I'm keeping it on my watch list, and I'll come back to it in a year or so and rewatch it again. And I think this will become a favourite of mine to watch every couple of years, just when I want something silly to watch. And it's a great one. And before you sort of talk about it, I just want to say, if you haven't seen it, do watch it. It's not going to blow your doors off, but it is It's going to kill an amazing Friday night. Get your friends around, drink some beers, and if you like 80s action and 80s horror, and you want to see all that thrown together, but with Naked Gun sort of humor all the way through it, you're going to absolutely love this. It's, there's nothing to not love about this, really.
No, I reckon this is a Saturday night movie, and the next movie we got is a Sunday afternoon film. I think you're set for the weekend. It's a great film. I don't need to really say any more about it, Daniel. I chose it because I love it. I explained why earlier. So it's
definitely a thumbs up for both of us.
Thumbs up from us. It's a really good
Fantastic
film.
Stuff.
Yeah, that's a straight hour. That exactly as I said that. That turned to 1 hour of recording there. How crazy is that?
Well,
shall
right
we?
On the dot.
Shall we?
Bill Murray's with him.
Bill.
Here he is. He's got his James Bond tuxedo
you up
on.
for the James Bond? I'll tell you what, Bill. I really enjoyed watching recently that movie. He doesn't. Oh, what's it called? It's a play on the Hitchcock name movie. Doesn't know anything. Sure. Oh, I can't remember what it's called. It's
The
not
Man
called
Who Knew Too Little.
That's it. A Man Who Knew Too Much or Too Little, one of the two. Really enjoyed that, and that's kind of like Bill Murray, as close as you could get to James Bond, I guess.
Well, he's shaking us up a martini right now. Yep. I'm surprised he's not in his birthday suit, but I think he said 2025 is the year he's going to be slightly better behaved.
Yeah, but it's only when it's our episodes. He's not in the birthday suit all the year round.
He's usually
Murray balls out.
Oh, okay. He's saying something about Bond girls arriving later on this evening, but my wife's upstairs, Bill. We can't have loads of women coming round here. No. Oh, Gav. I think it's going to get messy. Bill, do you want to just take us into World of the Strange, please?
Messy Bill.
Bill, please do it.
Bill.
Hi, welcome back to World of the Strange.
Strange.
It's a strange world, Moneypenny.
It's a strange world. Don't know what that was.
Okay, now. Bond, it's time to meet your gadgets.
Strange world of Bond.
For World of the Strange, we're going to be talking about all the wonderful world of James Bond.
Oh, really? Splendid.
I'm going to talk about Bond girls, some strange Bond facts, and I'm going to finish up with some real-life Bond gadgets that are now real. Gadgets that appeared in Bond films, but they're now real.
There's never one called Funny Fanny, was there?
No, but that would have been brilliant.
Funny Fanny would be
Mr. Bond, this is your assistant, Funny Fanny. She'll be helping you out. Although I think Moneypenny is a play on vagina, really, isn't it? Let's be honest.
Well, a lot of one of them's.
Well, let's dive into it, because the first thing I'm going to talk about is
let's dive into a lot of vagina.
Bond girls and their names. Okay.
All right.
So I'm just going to do some of the more notable ones and their names. So we'll start with Honey Rider.
Wow. that is a porn name, isn't it?
Dr. No, it conjures up images. That was Ursula Andress in Dr. No. Honey Rider, and even like you said in the last episode, even Roger Moore is just a pun in itself, really, isn't it? Yeah. In Dr. No, we also had another lady, a Bond girl called Sylvia Trench. Trench, which is a large gully.
I don't know why. I bet she's like, there's Dr. Goodhead and I'm Trench.
I'm Sylvia Trench.
Well, that's not really good. I don't know what that means. Maybe they didn't like her. I don't know.
But those are some of the funny ones to start with. Other ones we got, obviously, got to discuss Pussy Galore. How the fuck they got away with that?
That's it. So Austin Powers was a lot of vagina, wasn't it?
Yeah, a lot of vagina.
Because Austin Powers is just a play on all of the Bonds. Yeah. And
Felicity Shagwell. Shagwell by name, shag very well by nature.
Splendid.
It's ridiculous. But yeah, Honor Blackman played Pussy Galore, which is just the height of Bond girl names, really. Who else did we get? We got. Do
you reckon she played with that name when she's in the bedroom with her special other half? Do you know what I mean?
Pussy Galore. Maybe. I don't think Honor Blackman would do that. She's quite a classy lady in real life. We had Domino in Thunderball. And what you got to remember as well, that Bond would often say things about their names. Like when he met Pussy Galore for the first time, he said, "I think all my dreams have come true." Yeah. That kind of thing. Yeah. We had we also had Kissy Suzuki,
Okay.
in You Only Live Twice. Kissy Suzuki. Brilliant. In You Only Live Twice. She was obviously Japanese, as you can tell by the name. We also had Bambi and Thumper. Do you remember those two?
Yeah.
Yeah, Bambi and Thumper as well. Who else did we have? Grace Jones had a good name as well when we get to her. Tiffany Case. That's ridiculous. She was in Diamonds Are Forever. One of my favourites, also in Diamonds Are Forever, it was a girl by the name of Plenty O'Toole. Plenty O'Toole. Hi, I'm Plenty O'Toole.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, Bambi and Thumper were both also in Diamonds Are Forever. Solitaire, she was in Live and Let Die as well. So some of these ended up all being in the same film. We have Mary Goodnight. Yeah, and The Man with the Golden Gun. Hello, I'm Mary Goodnight. Well, I'm sure you are, my dear. Come on.
James Bond.
How do they get away with this sort of stuff? Who else did we get? We got Barbara Bach. Sorry, not Barbara Bach. Her character was called Anya Amasova. We had Holly Goodhead, which you've already mentioned.
Dr.
She was in
Goodhead.
How again, Holly Goodhead?
Yeah.
You know, it's like a drunken producer
Benny
of
Hill.
Carry On films.
Oh, Carry On, yeah.
Stumbled in and said, "Call one of them Holly Goodhead."
then walked back out like, "Who's he? Maybe he's one of the producers. Keep the name." Is that the Carry On? Is that the Carry On spine set?
Also had Octopussy, herself,
Of course.
in the movie Octopussy. You know,
My dad took me to the cinema to see that as a little kid.
Who's called Octopussy? That was it. Grace Jones was called Mayday.
I like the one with Grace Jones.
She hooked up with
Christopher Walken.
Dolph Lundgren in that one as well. In fact, that's Dolph Lundgren's first on-screen appearance.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he played a bodyguard in it, and after that, he got the Rocky movie.
Nice.
We got Paula Ivanova in A View to a Kill as well. We got Xenia Onatop. That was Famke Janssen in Goldeneye. Xenia Onatop. On a top of what? On top of me.
Yeah.
Yeah, Bond girls. They're a staple. And I thought what we could probably do is very quickly just talk about all the Bond cliches, because we have... Oh, we should also mention that Michelle Yeoh is called Wailing. She's wailing.
Yeah.
So you've got to have the Bond girls, you know, Dr. Christmas Jones. Christmas came early this year, all that kind of stuff. But you've got to have his drink. He's known for his drink. Martini, shaken, not stirred. He's got to have his car. He's got to have his gadgets. He's got to have Q. He's got to have M. He's got to have Moneypenny. These are all things, no matter who's playing Bond, these other things are all constants throughout, aren't they? What other cliches are there? The one-liners?
Yeah, a lot of the one-liners as soon as Roger Moore came into it, and they were played with in the Majesty'S Secret Service, which we will speak about. Yeah, definitely having sex is one thing you always think is James Bond got an STD. He must have many an STD.
Would you like to know how many women James Bond slept with throughout the 24 films?
Go on then.
58 women. Someone's gone over it and done the maths.
That's amazing.
58 sexual relations with women.
Yeah.
22% of the women he'd slept with were drunk. Not sure what that says about James.
No.
And 28% of the women that James Bond slept with died by the end of the film.
Yeah. It's not good.
Do you know how many men how many people James Bond has killed throughout the movies? All the movies?
Wow, that must be a lot.
370 people.
Wow. Okay.
Just one man. License to kill. He's got a license, Gav.
If you had a license to kill, though, you'd probably just be like, bang, shooting that fucker. Bang, shooting that fucker.
License to kill. Pierce Brosnan has killed the most people out of all the Bonds.
Wow.
Mr. Brosnan taking people out.
And his special gadgets. That'd be his invisible car and stuff like that.
BMW that he had and all that kind of stuff.
It's a shame because Tarantino says Pierce Brosnan was like a brilliant Bond but was in the wrong decade.
Well, let's talk about that briefly, because he actually was going to be James Bond in the Timothy Dalton movies.
Yes, but too young.
And he also was doing Remington Steele at the time.
And he couldn't get out of the contract,
Dalton,
could he?
Timothy Dalton, who was in 2 of my favourite Bond movies, he was going to be in On Her Majesty's Secret Service. But he was only 23 and they didn't want a really young Bond. And they made him audition, and I don't know how he would have done it. In 1969, Timothy Dalton, he was so young. He was only 23. Obviously, they went with Lazenby in the end, but yeah, pretty crazy stuff. He would have done that. There's been 12 James Bond actors.
12?
Which doesn't make sense, I know. But that's if you include people like Bob Holness, that used to present blockbusters. He played him in a radio play. Peter Sellers, Barry Nelson. But obviously the mainstay are Daniel Craig, Pierce Brosnan, and all the guys that we know. So yeah, James Bond, he's shagged a lot of women, he's killed a lot of men, he's drank a lot of alcohol, but Gav, he's had a lot of gadgets.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about the gadgets?
Oh, of course. Obviously, always you have to have, like the one we're talking about. It's a classic Bond. It has everything, really does. But you do have a lot of staples. One of them is going to go see Q. Q is his quartermaster, and who basically just gives him his field kit and gear, equipment. Yep.
And we've seen a range of crazy gadgets, but I've got a list of gadgets that are now real. So we can discuss how those go. By the way, little bit of trivia for you. You know, James Bond obviously loves Baccarat. That's his favourite card game. In the books, James Bond was also apparently really good at Snap. Like, why did Ian Fleming write that into the book?
Snap.
Is that trying to say he's got really good reflexes or something? I don't know.
You know? It's so like brainless. Snap.
Also, Roger Moore had hoplophobia, which is a fear of guns.
Oh.
And Daniel Craig was the first Bond that was younger than the franchise itself. Interesting for you as well.
Strange trivia.
I just throw these little things at you because it's your birthday episode. But yeah,
as we're talking random Bonds in now, like I say that all of the Bond films always have kind of gone with what's going on at the time in the mainstream cinema. The Daniel Craig era coming from the Bourne Ultimatum type films coming on. Do you know what I'm saying? And as we went through time, especially like you see him earlier on in the movies, you can look at what came out like a year earlier in cinema and go, what came out? Oh, okay, that. All right, so they're going to be now in Moonraker or Up in Space or just. It's so funny how you can look at another movie and go, oh, that came out, so they went, let's do something like this.
Yep. And the next Bond's probably going to be a superhero or something. Do you know what I mean?
I have no idea. I imagine it'd be quite a young Bond. I think it's the only thing they could do next, really. It's going to be a man, and I think it'll be a young man.
I must own up to our listeners. You know, I've seen them all except for the newest one. Which is No Time to Die, is it? It's good.
Yeah. I class No Time to Watch because it's too long. I have seen it. It's quite long.
Not. But I do love the James Bond movies.
I think I think the love interest type person in it, I think's wrongly cast. Just doesn't seem to have any chemistry, and it's like, okay.
Before we get into these gadgets, one thing I will say, which I think I've said before on the podcast, is there are 3 sort of staples of British cinema, and they are the Carry On movies, the James Bond movies, and what's the other one? I can't remember what the Hammer. Thank you very much. And they're time capsules, and they're not always very PC because they were made at very different times. But you know, Hammer, Bond, and the Carry On movies, they were
very British.
What British people were watching.
It's for people outside of England, and maybe who are born a lot later, who are younger, listening to the show. Like me and Dan, we would have grown up with Bond being like, it still is though, I think, really, but back in the day before the internet and you only had 4 channels or whatever, Bond at Christmas Day, or it was a special event when you had a Bond movie come on, or go to cinema. I didn't go that often, it's more TV, but and we all grew up on Bond. Everybody grew up on Bond. It's just a weird thing, but it's a very British thing.
Who's your favourite Bond actor?
What's yours?
Mine weirdly is Roger Moore, because my favourite films are the Roger Moore films, because they're a little bit more comedic, tongue-in-cheek, bit camp, and I just love. Those are the ones I watch the most. I'd say Sean Connery's my least favourite.
It's a hard one because I like all classics and I grew up with them, but I do really like Daniel Craig's take on it.
Yeah, I liked Pierce Brosnan, but I feel like half of his films were crap and the other half were good. I'll tell you who I love, Timothy Dalton. He did 2 Bond movies and they were both really different, really dark.
Yeah, well, that's when they went real serious with it. And if you look around at a time, that's sort of late 80s, mid to late 86 and like 89 or something like that. If you look at around then, it was a lot of a darker period with like the action films at the time then were going darker action movies, Predator, etc., etc. Do you know what I mean? So, and he just dropped in for 2 films. Yeah.
Weird, but gadgets, Gav. So I'll start on the list of gadgets that are now real. So in Dr. No, the bad guy in that had bionic hands.
Nice.
In 1962. That was science fiction in 1962.
Cool as shit.
But now there are bionic hands.
If my hands get chopped off, it's going to be annoying, but
it's going to be annoying.
Can I get bionic ones, though? That's the question.
Yeah, of course you can. That's the thing. Everyone can have them now. Bionic hands, you've got bionic legs. To be honest with you, if
no arthritis, just keep going. That's fucking real good.
You've seen people with those bionic legs that are like big springboards that they can run at like God knows how fast, like 30 miles an hour or something ridiculous.
Arms. I want those spring legs as arms, so I can spring your face really far in a nice, loving way.
Wow. Well, Dr. No had metal hands, which gave him super strength, but obviously now this is a real thing, and with technology and medicine and science, we can give people bionic hands. So that's the first one on the list that is now real. Here's another one. In Goldfinger in 1964, everybody thought it was very silly that the Aston Martin had some kind of sat navigation in it. God, that was far-fetched, that is, isn't it?
Yeah.
But here we are in 2025.
Popped a few satellites up there, and
got it on my phone. But imagine in 64 when that film came out and people were like, he's got a satellite navigation system built into his Aston Martin.
But I'm sure I don't have a one of those gadget watches. Can you can probably get your navigation in your watch, can't you?
I expect you can, in your Apple Watch or something, yeah.
So that's funny. That is James Bond. You've got navigation in your watch. That is already old school Bond, isn't it? That's so amazing.
Yeah, like people can talk into their phones, like Dick Tracy and stuff like that,
That's hilarious.
To their watches. Yeah. So that one's done. One which is illegal but is real is the license plate flipper from Goldfinger as well. We've seen this done. Also in the Cannonball Run, where you can flip your license plate over and pretend you're a different car.
That's pretty cool.
And people have got this to stay out away from the cops.
God.
But obviously it's not legal to have this built into
You're
a car.
You're going to get super busted, because I guess what they'd do, though, if they caught you, they would just flip it, then run that flip's license plate and go, look at all the shit you've done.
But I even remember this in the Cannonball Run where Roger Moore does it, when the Smokies are on his tail.
And he plays pretty much Bond in that movie, which is hilarious. With his mum, though.
He plays Roger Moore, doesn't he? He plays Roger Moore, who's an actor.
Who played Bond, yeah.
But yeah, you will go to jail if you have license plate flippers on your car.
You will be the talk of the jail of how cool your number plate flipper was. So,
especially if like one of the number plates says fuck and then you flip it and the other one says you.
Oof.
Here's another one then. This one's from Thunderball, 1965. As we know, Sean Connery had a rocket-propelled jetpack in that.
Very quickly, going back to the number plate thing, what if you took the number plate, which you're doing all the crimes with, was a number plate of like an old lady somewhere, but you had the same car as you and everything, colour and everything, and then they end up just raiding her house. Oh, what happened to me? And it's this little old innocent lady.
You're a heroin dealer. We know you.
Is that what you're going to do with your flip number plate?
Yeah.
Deal heroin?
Money and drugs.
That's your choice. You could deal heroin. You could rob a bank or something safely. Don't harm people. You could rob a bank though.
Yeah, but you get some money out of heroin.
Yeah, but you can kill people with your overdoses.
Anyway, it wasn't me. It was the old lady. I didn't do it.
True. Go on and carry on to your rocket pack.
Yeah, so rocket jetpack in Thunderball. Sean Connery
That is cool.
used that. Obviously, we know rocket packs are real now. You know, jetpacks. They're not as awesome as like Iron Man makes them out to be yet, but they are there. You know, that we do have rocket-fueled jetpacks, and it is something that is probably going to be improved and perfected in the next 10 years, really. But we already still have some kind of a jetpack. I don't think I'd like to try it until it's perfected, because the danger is, obviously, it will explode, and it's on your back. If it explodes, you're doomed.
Well, that's why they're a bit nervous in the lift in Ghostbusters on the first trial run.
That's true, actually.
Yeah.
Each of us is carrying an unlicensed nuclear accelerator on our back.
Turn me on.
Next one on the list is the mini helicopter. The mini helicopter, tiny little helicopter. We first saw it in You Only Live Twice.
No, what? I don't remember that. What? Not one for people?
Just one person in it. It just fits one little tiny thing. It was in the back of a car or something.
Yeah,
it sort of flipped out.
That's really. I remember that. It's very cool. Yeah.
And now we do have mini helicopters.
I want one of them too for my birthday.
Because I mean, drones, you can fit a person in a drone. So
those big ones, yeah.
Yeah, so you know, so that's another thing that's come true thanks to Q. You know, fake fingerprints. Diamonds are forever.
Q didn't actually come up with these things. Q's a character, Dan, in the movie.
Oh, sorry, what?
Right, yeah.
I thought he worked for the government. No. Yes, we now have fake fingerprints. They've started catching criminals that can apply a little bit of gel with a fingerprint on it to their fingertips, and they can beat the scanners so they can get into security places.
Shit, spy shit.
Yeah.
That's what I'd do. If I buzzed that, I'd look to you when it went bing, clear. I'd look at you and go, spy shit.
Amazing. Because, I mean, we've got them on our laptops, on our phones. You know, we use our fingerprint biometrics for all of that stuff, really. But obviously with my phone, it's also got to see my face as well. Yeah. So it has to unlock to my face. Otherwise, unless John Travolta comes along and does a face-off switch with me. I don't know why he'd want my phone, really. There's not much in there other than pictures of my children. But, hey, it's John Travolta. Who knows what he wants? So, yeah, fake fingerprints, Gav. Another one that's come true. What about a submarine car?
Oh, nice. An octopussy.
The Spy Who Loved Me.
Oh, okay, sorry.
1977. Roger Moore drove his beautiful car.
I've still got the little white one with the little flippers.
I've got that toy.
I've got that, yeah. I think most of our age have got that toy, yeah.
The vehicle was nicknamed Wet Nelly.
Mm.
It's a Lotus Esprit S1 sports car that they turned into this for the film. It's now real, though. You'll be pleased to know that Elon Musk now owns the original Wet Nelly.
Wow! Oh.
He bought it at auction for £550,000.
See, there is one thing, being the richest person in the world, there is a chance that you could go to all these movie memorabilia places and say, I'm literally just going to spend my money. There's a lot of things I could do in the world, but I'm going to spend on movie memorabilia and have like the best movie museum in the world ever.
But the problem there is that Elon Musk might wake up one day and say, do you know what I really want? I want to build an army of Ed 209s.
Yeah.
I'm going to do that.
Yeah.
And then we're in trouble, aren't we? But yes, we now have mini cars that can turn into submarines. Boats, obviously, it's very common to have cars that can turn into boats as well. But yes, we do have that. So again, you know, it's all very far-fetched at the time, but because there's an element of science fiction in the Bond movies, I guess, to that extent, isn't there? You know?
Yeah. And it's kind of like the Simpsons. They're just throwing stuff at it because they're always like, Simpsons predicted all these things. Yeah, but Simpsons, there's so many episodes, there's so much shit in them. They're gonna predict stuff by accident. But so it's the same as this. They're just gonna come up with all these inventions, and some of the stuff's gonna be like stuff which should come in fruition.
Well, the next one on the list is in Tomorrow Never Dies with Mr. Brosnan, and he used a phone that was referred to as a smartphone, and everybody thought that would never catch on. What's that talking about? And he could take pictures with it. He could use it to record things.
Did they class it in the Bond as a smartphone?
As a Bond, this is your smartphone. It was a Nokia. It was an Ericsson JB988. And Q was like, this phone is just a phone, Bond. And he gave me it. He said, it opens up and you can take pictures with it and record video on it. And Bond was like, great. Obviously, Bond used it to drive his BMW remotely as well.
Oh, yeah. But I watched that one recently. Yeah.
But obviously, smartphones are fucking everyone's got one now. 10-year-old kids have got them in their pocket, younger.
Yeah.
And I've just discussed, they've got fingerprint scanners on them. There's more technology in the smartphone.
I took Elijah to a kid's party the other day, and it's a 11-year-old kid, and it's all boys. No, there's one little sister, but it's all boys, all these 11-year-old boys. And one of them was in there, his phone or whatever rang, and he's just chatting to his watch. To like his mum or whatever, and I'm like, fucking hell, Elijah doesn't even have a mobile phone. It's like, fucking hell, and he's got a watch. I don't even have a fucking watch. And he said, and it's like, what the hell? Weird.
Yeah, and you imagine in 1997, phones weren't really. There were mobile phones, but they weren't smartphones.
No.
You could just about text. But here we are.
Here we are.
More technology in our phones than was probably in the average street, back then. X-ray glasses, Gav.
Nice. Can you get X-ray glasses?
You can.
I want
the world
X-ray
is not enough. The world is not enough. James Bond wore some X-ray glasses. But the development of real X-ray spectacles has now been developed, and it allows doctors and nurses to locate a vein in you for intravenous treatments and things like that. So while they're working on you, the nurse can be wearing these X-ray glasses that can see through, not all the way through, but see through part of your skin, so they can see where the vein is to put the drip in and all that kind of stuff. So we're working on them, and we know that there's glasses out there like Google Glass and whatever it is that you can wear. You can watch TV on your glasses, and they're advertised that they've got your phone built into them because they've got an earpiece that goes into your ear, and you can talk in them as well. So we're there already with that.
Yeah,
and
right.
I remember wanting to send off for them in the back of my Marvel comics.
Yeah, those cool ads. Yeah.
You'd be like, oh wow,
XL specs, $2.
My mum would be like, I don't think £2.50 is going to buy you X-ray specs, Daniel. And I'm like, Mum, I want them. I need them. I
know, what a fucking con.
The last one on the list is from Casino Royale 2006, Daniel Craig. A microchip implant. At the time, it was still considered science fiction, but we now have them, and we have people actually wanting them put into their skin so they can do their chip and pin when they pay for groceries and that kind of stuff.
We've always had in dogs for a long time, chips.
That's true. We've got them in dogs, yeah. But yeah, all of these things were science fiction in these Bond movies, and now they're real. The most common one, really, talking of this chip, is the Neuralink, which I think you discussed on your show with Sarah.
Yeah, it's Elon Musk's Neuralink. Yeah, basically people paralysed or paraplegic people, or just the spinal areas just gone or whatever. Even complete paralysed people will be able to, and there's some people are doing it now, be able to just use their mind with a fucking thing put in their mind, chip in their mind.
That links to their spine,
so they can think. And it's the people doing it. It's not like I'm not making this up. This is actually happening. There's like a dude, and he's playing computer games with his mind. So where he wants to shoot, he just looks over there and it shoots.
And people can choose to have ones. Yeah. There's a guy that can see colour.
And it will help people
can see music and hear colour and stuff. And it's like, wow.
That's crazy. And it will help people to walk as well with you can bypass the things which have stopped in their head, in their brain or whatever, which is signalling and communicating with making the legs walk, whatever, and what's happened there, they can bypass that to link up another way so you can actually walk and stuff again. That might be a thing as well, which is insane.
It is insane. And, that's again from Marvel, Captain Iron Man's buddy, Rhodey, gets paralysed at the end of one of the movies, and they implant a chip in his spine and he can walk. And
I imagine at the moment it's very expensive, so it'd come down to who's going to get priority, and if it's a private thing, then obviously it could be the rich. Don't know if it would then be down cheaper. Elon Musk's a strange character, not getting into politics, even though he's not really even politics, but he's stepped into politics, not getting into it. He's a strange character because he at times you're like, oh, that would be a good thing for the human race. Then the next thing you're like, I'm not sure. But we won't get into it now. But that seems like a good thing if you can help people who are paralysed to walk again. That can't seem like a bad thing at the moment. Anyway, Bond, James Bond, Moneypenny, Goulash.
That's it.
Goulash.
That's my list of gadgets. I thought we'd talk about Bond
Look
girls,
at my
Bond
balls,
cliches,
Dan. My balls.
How many women he's shagged, how many men he's killed, and all that kind of stuff. And I think Bill Murray's fixed our martinis up for us here now. I'm not sure what that little pink pill is floating in each of them, but you got them from who? Bill Cosby? What?
P. Diddy?
Oh. Jesus
P. Diddy,
Christ.
Bill
What's all
Cosby
this baby
supplier.
oil?
That doesn't sound good. Bond, James Bond.
Dear. I've watched Blink twice. Right, Bill, can you please take us out of here?
Should we have a trade it for Majesty's Secret Service?
Yeah, Bill, take us out of here and we'll go straight into a trailer for some Bondness.
Do it now.
That's all the time we've got for this week on World of Strange. Next week, though, give me Ira. Hairless pets. Weird.
An avalanche of action. Bigger, better, different. It's got to be when he's around. Vistas of sweeping splendor. Different. It must be so if he's in the picture. Fabulous beauties, all of them dolls, every one different. They've got to be when he's around.
My name's Bond, James Bond.
The new Bond.
Suppose I were to kill you for a thrill.
The different 007. George Lazenby. The different Bond from the same stable. Diana Rigg as the Comtessa, the different Bond woman. This one's got class and style. The villains with a difference. Telly Savalas as Blofeld, a new destructive force.
With a difference. If my demands are not met, I shall proceed with the systematic extinction of whole species of cereals and livestock all over the world.
Gabrielle Fazzetti as Draco, a tough mafia daddy with a problem child.
Papa, where's James?
Don't worry, you'll join us soon.
But we can't leave him.
He doesn't need your help.
I will not go without him.
You'll have to.
On the day you marry her, I'll give you a personal dowry of £1 million.
Oh. 007 times more exciting than your wildest dreams. The creative skills of the cinema's master filmmakers.
We'll hit the rush hour.
If you think you know your Bond, think again. This one's different. This one's got heart.
I love you. I know I'll never find another girl like you. Will you marry me?
Time enough for life to unfold all the precious things love has in store. We have all the love in the world. If that's all we have, you will find we need nothing more.
On Her Majesty's Secret Service, 1969. PG, 2 hours, 22 minutes. Exact. Nice and neat. 222. British agent James Bond goes undercover to pursue the villainous Ernst Stavro Blofeld, who is planning to hold the world to ransom. James Bond. Well, we've not talked about this fella before especially we have, but not as an actual movie review, have we, Dan?
No, and there's a few bits to talk about before we get into the actual story itself.
Yeah.
So just very quickly, directed by Peter Hunt, who also directed a couple of other Bond movies, or produced them at least. He directed some Roger Moore ones as well. I'm just having a look now. Bear with me a moment. And it's an obscure one and done. There's only the one time George Lazenby played Bond. It could be just a self-contained. Spoiler alert. The reason being, Bond gets married in this one. It also really started to open up Bond's
character,
but also that tongue-in-cheek one-liner stuff that Roger Moore really took to
which
another
then
level.
Got dropped again, but. Yeah, because this only has a bit of that, but it has everything. I don't know, it's so good. It's such a weird one. It's coming out from the Sean Connery era. And Sean Connery was the first person doing it. So he'd set this benchmark, this look, everything sort of thing. And it's really funny. Like, all of a sudden they're like, well, we want to keep doing these movies, but we can't keep using Sean Connery, even though he does come back for an unofficial Bond movie later on, which came out
the same year as a Roger Moore one.
Which is so weird. Anyway,
competing Bonds.
Yeah, and they spent a year and a half looking for a Bond. George Lazenby said like he was annoyed with the producers later on after the film had come out that they were saying, "Oh, we could have just taken any actor off the street and made them Bond." He hated that, but he went for there's even a documentary. I can't remember what name it is now. I should know the name. We should give that name. Where George Lazenby tells his story, and he was a model. He was doing a car advert in New Zealand or Australia, one of the two. I guess New Zealand.
I think he's from New Zealand.
So it's probably New Zealand. And the role was up, and he actually went to. I think did he go to the same tailor and same hairdressers as Sean Connery's character, or Sean Connery?
Yeah, he tried to do everything.
So
he could.
when he went into the audition, he looks like Sean Connery. So I don't know at what point. He did a lot of blagging on there. I think this is before the internet. They weren't doing you can't just look on your phone and go to their IMDb. It's a little bit different than that. So he did a lot of blagging and got the role, which is hilarious, really, because on the first day of shooting, pretty much, to the director of photography, he sort of whispered to him, "I don't know what I'm doing. This is my first time." And the director of photography is like, "Right, okay, stand over here." Da-da. And this is unfortunately his downfall after the film was finished, and there's the press releases, premiere. Someone said to him, he said, "What do I do now?" Someone have said to him, "Just act like a movie star." And he grew his hair long. You remember, this is going into the early 70s. He grew his hair long and the beard long, and which wasn't a liked look at that time of the straight sort of edge type folk, hippies and all that stuff. And he just kind of went rogue, and they were like, "No, you can't do this." To the point when he was so gutted that they took him off the American tour for this film, that he paid for the tour out of his own money just to go and do it. And he would go up to the studios and say to them, the TV studios, can I be on his show? And they'd be like, "Who are you?" And he's like, "Oh, I'm the Bond, this new movie's out." And they're like, "Right, okay." And he would go on and have interviews like that, and that's how he did because he paid for it himself, because he was completely taken out of the movie because of his downfall of not knowing how to be an actor and just for relying on just being an actor, and just kind of did that. If he had gone along at the premiere dressed there like he was as Bond, he'd be in another Bond film probably.
He would, and his career was plummeted after this, really.
I looked at his IMDb. The next couple of films, sorry to cut you off there, you can get back onto it in a second, but this was absolute luxury for an actor. He was working with proper lovely, gorgeous sets, locations, characters, costumes, cast, everything you need. It's so good, the cars, everything. And the next film he's doing, like, I looked at the still shots and it's like, man, that's shot on like probably like 16mm or something with no lighting, and it's just like, how did, like, what a crazy thing to have then go afterwards. It must have fucked with his mind a little bit, you know.
Yeah, and he had, you know, we talked about how this film influences a lot of things, you know, Roger Moore's run, but also Austin Powers later down the line. But a lot of movies that came quite soon after this, Enter the Dragon being one of them. You know, there's a lot that was essentially a Bond film with Bruce Lee, and you know, and you can see that. And
absolutely, yeah.
And weirdly, George Lazenby had more bad luck. He had a meeting scheduled with Bruce Lee and one of the heads of Warner Brothers, and they were going to be making a film together. It was potentially going to be Game of Death. Unfortunately, Bruce Lee died. I think the morning of the meeting that he had, so that never went ahead, and that would have probably done something for him.
I think that would be one of those cult films that we're probably reviewing on this show,
because he was friends with George Lazenby. George Lazenby, I think, had done some martial arts training under Bruce Lee. Bruce Lee taught a lot of famous people. So yeah, I mean that would have been brilliant. You can imagine how John Saxon, he was so cool in Enter the Dragon. That could have been like a, you know, it could have been George Lazenby doing something similar. Yeah. I got it wrong earlier. It was actually Roger Moore that was offered this film, and he said, "I don't like the script, and I think it's not something I want to do." And obviously, he's
contracted though to doing The Saint at the time.
He was doing The Saint, and then Timothy Dalton was. He said, "I feel like I'm too young for this."
And it's funny because Pierce Brosnan was doing a TV show, wasn't he? Steel?
Remington Steel, yeah.
Remington Steel.
Chuck Steel.
Yeah, and he was doing that, which was like I've never seen it, but it was like he was a leading person, probably had a gun sort of thing, you know. Yeah, it's funny that. But yeah, it's such an interesting movie, this. Really.
It uses a contemporary song, you know, All the Time in the World.
Oh, it's good. And it's
which is really sad as well.
So well, yeah.
And it was the longest Bond film until...
Oh, really?
It's 2 hours and 20 minutes. It was the longest Bond film until 2012 with Spectre. You know, so...
And it's just so...
and it smashed the box office. It did amazing in the box office when it came out in 1969.
Yeah.
Beat everything.
I don't know why they had to be so like, oh no, you can't be dressed like that. It's like, all you got to do is, next movie comes on, like, cut all your hair, do that, and go back into the character. It's so silly. But another thing with this, though, I would say that this movie is absolutely perfect. If no other James Bond movie existed, right? No movie at all, and you were reading the book, and you were imagining what the James Bond was like as you were reading the book. This is that. Yeah. This is that. You're reading this.
And I mean, talking of that,
you're picturing this. Sorry,
this was actually first published in Playboy magazine. This story over a series of issues, which is why Bond is randomly reading a Playboy in one of the scenes. It's because
and he turns it sideways as well.
He's having a look at the order. But I thought that was odd, but I realised later on it's because this story was originally published in Playboy, so they wanted to shout out Playboy. And also, you know, going back to this film, sort of setting up Bond's character and what we were going to expect from Bond films moving forward, you got, you know, a great villain. Telly Savalas, who could have thought he would have played a great villain?
When he pops up, because you know he's in it, but he's not in it for a little while, so you kind of just, like, you're watching a movie and you're quite happy just following the movie, watch it long, and all of a sudden Telly turns like, you're like, Kojak, who loves you, baby? Yeah!
It's crazy. And, you know, great Bond girls in this. Even Joanna Lumley, this was her first on-screen appearance. She's only in it briefly. Yeah. It's just got so much going for it. And, you know, we get Moneypenny, M and Q as well.
The score is the classic, absolute classic score. It's got it's got everything you need in the Bond, like the horns playing the theme music. Bah, 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 bah. It's just so good.
It's considered the best Bond score of all time.
Absolutely,
and I agree with that.
Yeah.
And yeah, well, I mean, let's just get into it because this film is it's great. And
John Barry's so good. I've got a lot of his records actually of all the Bond tracks. They're so good.
The thing is, if Lazenby had made more Bond films, they might have been shit. He is in some ways lucky to have done this and that's it. Do you know what I mean? He had a chance to shine, and boy, did he shine. I think he's great in this role.
Yeah, totally. And I reckon it was a case of like, for the director of photography to be like, okay, and he'd be like, now what to do? Okay, right, stand there, right, just come in here and give them like the basic direction of an action scene. Do you know what I mean? Obviously, you got to learn a lot, some of the script and stuff, and choreography with some of the fight sequences. But some of the basic stuff would probably maybe that's how they shot it, like you do with some rappers, where you sometimes have to do punch in their raps. You just do a line, then record another line, then record it like Eazy-E style. You know? Do you know what I mean?
Do you know about the fight scenes in this?
No, what? Tell me.
Because Lazenby didn't really understand choreography.
Okay.
And they were going to double him.
Right.
But they ran through with him and one of the big Russian guys he fights.
He looks like he could probably have a fight.
Well, he broke this Russian guy's nose because he didn't know about pulling punches.
Oh.
So they said, we don't need to use stunt guys. You can do all your own stunts. He said, yeah, I'm happy to do the fight scenes and stuff like that on the beach, at the beginning where he's breaking people up. Yeah, and so he's pretty much doing almost all of his own stunts in this as well, apart from like hanging off of cables and stuff. And some of the skiing, of course, isn't him, but he was a big guy, I think Connery did a lot of his own fight stunts.
Right.
Roger Moore didn't, but yeah. So that's another thing he had going for him. He was the total package. The women loved him. The men wanted to be him. He was kicking people's asses. He looked great in a kilt. He looks fucking good in a kilt, Gav.
Yeah, he does.
When he gets that kilt on, come on. And the other thing that. And we'll come to this scene later, which I love about this. It really is almost like veering into parody. Is Bond suddenly finds himself at the top of a mountain in a building that's got a beautiful woman from every different country of the world in it, and it's just like what is going on here?
And he's in his kilt, and they're all like, "No men come here normally, apart from like the cleaners." And like the kitchen staff or whatever. It's like, whoa. And they're all just like, fucking hell. They're basically like, I want to have sex with him right now. It could be any man, really.
A little bit of trivia for you. Last bit before we get into you'll like this trivia. Before we get into the story then, is, the scene where the woman puts her hand up his kilt and writes her room number 8 on his thigh.
In the thigh, yeah. At dinner table, yeah.
When they shot that, one of the prop masters said to George Lazenby, I've got a really good joke to play. And they warmed up a big sausage and taped it to his inner thigh. So when she put her hand up it, she obviously felt what she thought was his dick. And apparently that's the take they use. You see her eyebrows go up ever so slightly, but she stays in character when she's pretending to write her name on his thigh. And that was the take they used. And afterwards they said to her, oh, by the way, that was a sausage, it wasn't real. She went, oh, wow, I had to stay in character for that scene. Gosh, I did think, what's going on here, And
wow.
I mean, you wouldn't get away with that now, quite rightly.
So she possibly wanked off a sausage under the table.
I don't think she would have done that, but
I reckon she wanked off a sausage.
Yeah, there we go. So there's lots to discuss in this. So should we jump into it?
From wanking off sausages on the tables, let's get straight into it. We have the classic Bond look at the camera. Classic circle Bond look at the camera.
He's wearing a hat, which is rare for this part. Normally when Bond shoots into the spy hole.
Yeah. We're with Q, straight with Q, aren't we?
In London, of course.
Of course we are. The Q's just going, we've got radioactive lint now, and just throwing random stuff to him. He's like, okay.
Well, the reason for this is the studio was really worried about someone that wasn't Sean Connery playing something. So they first scene has Q, M, Moneypenny, and MI5 headquarters in London. Just so you know, we're dealing with Bond. This is still James Bond, even though it's not Sean Connery. So that's why they did that. And they're like, "Where's Money? Where is 007? Has anybody seen him? He's been missing for a few weeks." And Moneypenny's like, "Well, I'm sure he's doing what he needs to do." And what's he doing? He's following Tracy around. He's following her around in his car.
Yeah, he's following someone in a car, basically. But what the beautiful thing here is, this is the anticipation again with. When we get a new James Bond, always is. This is the first time this has happened. So they've done it really well. They've just shown this James Bond, but they don't show him at all. They just show the shadows of the character. You don't see Bond whatsoever. And it's really nicely done. It's like how in the Daniel Craig one at the beginning, you get the black and white bit and he's out of focus. Then he comes into focus. It's really well done.
And they put him in an Aston Martin with a score playing that we know, so we know this is definitely Bond.
It's what is funny about this movie is they're very, very like with playing the audience, letting the audience know that they know what you want, because they get the bit when he says, "Well, that never happened to the other fellow."
I mean, that
is just going.
He says that to the camera. He breaks the fourth wall.
That's insane.
And that was him ad-libbing. George Lazenby kept saying off set, but this never happened to the other fellow. And one of the producers overheard him and said, "You need to say that in the film somewhere." And he said, "I'd like to say it in this speech scene."
Yeah.
And they said, "Let's try it." So after the girl runs off, he stares right into the audience's eyes and says, "I bet this never happened to the other fellow."
And it's just it's just letting the audience know that we know what's going on, and it's playing with that. And so I love the daringness of this film and how good it is. It's just so good. Anyway,
so he's spying on Tracy.
Yeah, in the shadows, driving off. She still don't know who it is yet, Bond, until he gets to the beach and he runs. You see his face, but carry on.
She looks like she's going to commit suicide or something, because she parks her car up on the beach and she walks into the water and just keeps walking and walking and walking. So he's been spying on her through his little BD Bond telescope, and he runs after her to save her, and he grabs her,
pulls the
her
car
out.
up, skids out of the car, jumps out of the car and runs. So that's first time seeing the new Bond, and he runs to save this woman that's about to commit a suicide. So it's quite a dark opening, really. It's like, what's going on? Yeah.
And he says, it's very important that he says this as his opening line to the film. The name's Bond, James Bond. And that was one of the first times he'd said it.
Right.
Bond. So that sets that up for all these other films.
They're just two fellas turn up with guns.
Two big guys.
And it's
a big scrap.
Okay, so now though, this is really interesting. It's edited not like action films in the 2000, post 2000. It's edited like 90s action films, but you've got close-up zooms of the Adam West Batman style. So it's so funny. It's so like weird contrast, but actually kind of okay with the darkness of the night getting dark with the sky there and the beach and stuff. It's kind of works okay though. I've got no problem with it at all.
Yeah, that was shot day for night, that whole scene.
Right. Yeah, it has that feel, but I like that feel for this,
And we get our first kill within minutes, because one of the guys he's fighting is in the water, and he just holds him down.
What do you think of the fight sequences?
Absolutely. This fight scene had me like pumping my fist, like this is great.
For 1969, it's like, this is quite... Yeah.
Because audiences were used to seeing...
Well, then going into Roger Moore, it's kind
films.
of pulled back a bit with Roger Moore's fighting. It wasn't like this.
Yeah, he wasn't so much of a fighter, was he?
And the action sequences weren't like this. They were big spectacles, but not individual spectacles.
Connery and Lazenby and Daniel Craig are all similar Bonds, because they like getting their blood on their knuckles and getting a good scrap going on.
Yeah, where it seems the Roger Moore, Dalton and Brosnan are more spectacle of the whole situation.
I think Dalton is somewhere in the middle. I think Dalton...
He was trying to do something a bit more rough around the edges, for sure.
But he was more of a keep my hands clean and use my gadgets kind of guy.
Yeah,
certainly Roger Moore was.
I don't know his films that well, I've got to be honest. All of the Bond movies, Dalton ones, I don't know as well.
License to Kill is the one where he quits. Famously, Bond quits.
Yeah, and anyway, I won't get into now.
Yeah.
Right.
So, yeah, he drowns this guy in like 3 inches of water by just kneeling on the back of his neck in the sea.
Yeah.
And then he goes after the other guy. He beats him with an oar. It's really, really, really good hand-to-hand. And then he looks around, and Tracy nicks his Aston Martin, drives it back over to her car, and gets in and drives off. And that's where he says, this never happened to the other fellow.
Which is just like, what the shit?
And now we get our next Bond staple or cliche.
Do you know, also here, just doing that and then letting that go is going also to a period of time of cinema when it was a spectacle itself, and it was very entertaining. It was a proper night out, going to the pictures, because you didn't have a TV at home, or you did, but it's like, black and white, not much going on. This was, so like him saying that, so the audience all laughed. all the audience would have laughed at that point and going, and they'd have felt so much in like, we're all like together. And it's made by film producers who are film lovers, who are thinking of the audience. Do you know what I mean?
And we've seen that, in films before, like in Iron Man 2, when Don Cheadle shows up instead of the other guy. He says, yeah, I know what you're looking at. It's me. Don't worry about it. And he kind of makes a comment. And even in like The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, when they replaced Aunt Viv in season 3, Will says to Carlton, is it just me or is there something different about Aunt Viv today? So we've seen this since this, but this is probably one of the first times a character has been swapped out and it's been acknowledged to the audience. And I just think, like you said, I think that's very daring, bold, funny.
On a side note, I watched the new Bad Boys movie.
Bad Boys 4, the new one, yeah.
I was very impressed of how it looks. Have you watched it?
I've not seen the 4th one, though, and I'm a big Bad Boys fan.
Watch it, but watch the colour palette and colour scheme. It's done so well, and I love the fact that Martin Lawrence actually has taken the piss out of himself in the movie of being fat.
Yeah, because he took the piss out of himself in the 3rd one.
And he does it in this one, and it's done really, really well, which made me chuckle quite a few times, and I didn't think I was going to, and I quite enjoyed it, actually.
Yeah, I do want to check it out. I just never got around to it for some reason, but I will do.
Colour palette's really well done, and the way it's been shot together is really impressive, actually.
Well, a lot of money goes into those films, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's really good.
But yeah, we now get our first Bond, the first time we really start seeing this Bond titles now, and everybody knows them now, and they've been parodied, but we get the silhouette of women.
And this is the big band score as well.
Yeah.
Of John Barry.
It's a really good score. And we get the title of the film, and we get the silhouettes of guns and women. We've seen it a billion times.
It's the classic Bond movie. This is the one. If you would say someone, what's a James Bond movie? Watch this movie. What do you think of George Lazenby's accent?
I think it's fine. I don't think there was an issue with it.
No. I was just trying to think what you think of it. It's quite well. It's pretty well done. It kind of sounds English. You don't really think any particular region, but I was quite impressed with how, I'm just coming to the fact that he blagged his way into doing this. He's pulling it off pretty fucking well.
They tried to keep his dialogue to a minimum, but as he was learning on set, so he was growing in confidence.
Yeah.
But apparently the only time that he struggled was during the romantic scenes where he was supposed to be being serious and romantic and they're falling in love with each other. But because Diana Rigg is an incredible actress, she really, if you watch those scenes knowing that, she's really making those scenes. He's trying to be romantic, but she is beautiful, and it's so easy to think he's genuinely falling in love with her because the chemistry, they've got really good chemistry. You can really believe that they're falling, even though her dad is and we'll get to this, even though it's her dad that's gone, I'll give you £1 million if you marry my daughter. Actually, he does genuinely fall in love with her.
Off screen, she didn't like him.
No, they didn't like each other very much.
No.
They used to wind each other up and say things like, I'll be having garlic for dinner when we do our kissing scene, and he'll be like, well, I'll be having twice as much garlic as you, that kind of thing.
Yeah, she didn't like him at all. So they turn up at a hotel, and we've got obviously a classic casino scene. Have to have a casino scene.
Yeah, so he arrives, he's seen the red car, he's followed her there, and he walks in, and everybody knows him. Mr. Bond, you've come to stay again. Fantastic. We'll get our finest suite ready for you. We know you're going to have massive orgies in there, probably with all your girls. We'll get everything set up for you, just like you like it.
Jizz everywhere.
It must be great being James Bond.
We won't be putting the green light on in the morning.
He says, whose red car is that outside? And they're like, she's checked into one of the other rooms. It's a Countess Teresa something or other, who we find out is Tracy. She prefers to be called Tracy. So he checks into this amazing hotel room. He goes out. There's this transition, Gav, where he goes out to his balcony and looks at the swimming pool. And he says, yes, I think I'm going to be having a great time here. And he looks out, and then we go from day to night, and you get the swimming pool in the middle of the shot from the balcony, and then it goes to night, and then the word casino is reflected backwards on the swimmable water. What an incredible transition for a Bond film.
Yeah.
And then that also tells us this hotel has a casino in it, and it's now nighttime. So we get all of that just in this lovely transition. Wow.
It's really well produced film. Like I say, like they've really thought about the art of the film in this.
And yeah, we're in the casino. Bond is playing Snap. Oh no, he's not. He's playing Baccarat. But apparently he's great at Snap, as we mentioned. And he's playing. He's smoking cigarettes.
Let's just pretend he's playing Snap.
He's playing Snap. Snap.
He's
Snap.
doing really well.
Who is this man? He's winning every Snap game. Get out the Old Maid. Okay, let's play Old Maid instead. Do you know Chase the Ace, Mr. Bond? Playing just random card games. We first get to meet Tracy via her cleavage. Now, my wife listens to the show, so I'll be careful what I say here, but it is an impressive cleavage, is what I will say, because her head is kind of obscured by the light over the table. So for ages, there's just this pair of boobs. And then eventually she sort of bends over and plays her hand. And they're like, oh, you've lost. You can't just come in and join a game halfway through. And Bond says, it's okay, we're partnered together. And he sort of pays for her hand that she fucked up the game with.
He says, no, she's basically going to get thrown out. And he's like, Contessa, I believe we said we'd go halves on tonight's game. And he puts in her money. He doesn't say it in that weird voice. Yeah.
He follows her over to her table and sits down with her.
Bond.
And he says to her, she says, you do have a habit of following me around, don't you?
You do have a hobbit that follows me around.
You do Do you have a hobbit that follows me around, Mr. Bond?
This is my hobbit. He follows people around when I tell him to, Hobbit, follow that person, and he follows them around.
She actually is quite forward at this point. She just says, look, and she just gives him her hotel key and says, I do hope you'll come later. And I thought, how are they getting away with this in a 1969 film? She says to him, here's my room key. I hope to see you later. I do hope you'll come. And I just thought, and Bond's thinking, well, I fucking will. I can tell you that.
Yeah.
And yeah, so he later on he goes up to her room.
When she says come to her room, though, his face doesn't actually seem that happy, which I was just like, is this because he's not an actor and he doesn't know what to do for reaction? Because he just looks more inquisitive, like, why is she asking me up to her room? Which obviously we find out's a bit of a ruse anyway, because he gets attacked up there. Spoiler. But he's playing that like he's just read the script rather than go, sweet.
Yeah.
It's so weird.
Either that or Bond's just so used to women inviting him to their hotel room.
I reckon he's just read the script and they said, action, and he's gone,
I think it's more that Bond's used to it, because later on, those women in that guest house
why is he inquisitively looking at her, though? What
he's in and out of about 4 different women's hotel rooms in that hotel resort later on.
I think I will have sex with you.
Yeah, he's thinking, oh, I will come, don't worry. Well, he lets himself in.
I might come twice. Yep.
There's a giant African guy waiting for him in there. Not what he expected.
It was really not what he expected. It's like I tell you what, when one of the Daniel Craig Bonds, I love the bit when he pulls the lady in Jamaica, goes back to the hotel and she takes her wig off, and he says, "Well, it's not the first thing I thought you were going to take off." This is so good.
Yeah, really good fight with this big guy now. They smash. It's really ahead of its time, like Bourne Ultimatum style fight, bashing heads. Also feels quite Hong Kong cinema at times, because he uses different things around the room. He smashes the guy's head into the wall.
If I ever get a chance to chat Daniel Craig, I think I might have to say to him, what did you think of on the Majesty's Secret Service, and just see what he thinks of it? Do you know what I mean?
I'm sure he loved it.
I reckon they really used that as research, but then said, can we put this and pop this into like 2011 or so, whenever his first movie was out? I think it's 2011.
Because Bond's so smooth, he smashes this guy into a gate and then says, "Gate crasher." then turns around, dips a spoon into a bit of caviar and eats it.
He does, because he ordered the caviar up to the room. There's loads of it, and he's just like, I fucking paid for it. I'm fucking having some, like a little kid, and just have some. Have a spoonful of caviar.
He goes back to his room.
But he speaks about the caviar, like he says, oh, so blah, 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 nice choice. And just has a little comment about it, like he's like writing a fucking Facebook comment.
And then he goes back to his room, probably to have like a bit of a sad wank that Tracy wasn't in her room.
He's definitely like after a post-fight sad wank.
However, while he's in his room, Tracy, half naked, pulls a gun on him, his own gun.
But hang on, at no point now is he confused though of where the Contessa is. At not one point did he go,
he knows.
Where's
she'll be
she
in his
then?
room. He knows.
He's just like, I'm eating some of that caviar, I'll pay for it. And I'm going back to my room.
I've been here before.
I'm bored.
I've been here before.
I'm just going back to my room to watch some TV.
I've been invited back to a woman's room. There's a big African fella that I have to fight, and I know that she'll be in my room waiting for me. It's all foreplay. He's been here before.
Oh, he knows it, does he? Oh, right, okay.
Yeah, he knows about it. Now, she pulls his gun on him, like I said. He grabs the gun. He actually slapped her.
Contessa's there with her cleavage out and a gun.
He slaps her and he says, get dressed. So, very unlike Bond. Get dressed.
But again, though, this is him saying, like, you know, what the fuck's up with you? And I'm not taking any shit. And it is a little bit Daniel Craigy.
And that guy that he knocked out earlier is listening outside the room.
Yeah,
so
he's
listening
sneaking
to what
in.
they're talking about.
Yeah.
They lie down on the bed and they talk.
Which is weird.
Says,
which is like, why is he not concerned about the fellow he just had a fight with? He only knocked him out. But anyway,
he said, he starts talking to her. He says, "Are you in trouble? What's going on? There was a guy in your room. You know what's happening."
He holds her hand and starts. Then they have the instrumental version of "We Have All the Time in the World" plays underneath them. And you're like,
then they kiss.
Yeah, you're like, oh, okay.
And we don't see it happen, but we assume they have a good old bonk because he wakes up in the morning, nothing on, and she's not there anymore. She's gone. So he gets up. He puts on her dressing gown. And his gun's not there. Where his gun is a casino chip. She's exchanged it. Cheeky
cow.
So he heads down to the hotel lobby. A couple of men pull guns on him. This is happening a lot to him already, isn't it? Bloody hell.
This
what do you want?
This reminds me of North by Northwest.
Yeah.
It's Cary Grant just at that point, and he's like, "What? What are you doing? I'm not who you are. What?" Taken away.
Well, they take him at gunpoint off to a car, and the African fella's in the back of the car, along with a couple of other guys. And he says, "I think we'll enjoy this ride a lot more if you put that knife and that gun away." He's been really
so
cocky,
cool.
really brave.
He's like, "Don't give a shit." He's like, "I'm Bond."
He says, are we going for business or pleasure?" He's sort of just like, mate, you've got 4 guys with guns and knives, and you're piled into a car, and you're still being brazen. And they take him to the harbour, to some docks. And then they take him into some back rooms. Ooh. And he thinks, what is going on here? No. And then he beats them all up a little bit, escapes through a door. And he suddenly...
He beats them up as he's beating them up. For whatever reason, I presume the sound design person, the sound effects person, was looking at the ambience of the room and going, I guess there'd be a bit of delay here. I don't know why. It'd be a bit of reverb, really. Reverberation. It wouldn't be delay, obviously. But for some reason, the fight sounds, every punch is delayed. Like a bang, 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 boom, 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 boom.
I didn't notice that.
Yeah, and it's like, why?
Because they're in like shipping containers or something, aren't they? So maybe
I don't. But it'd be reverberation. It wouldn't be delay. And which would generally, the delay would be generally if you're having like a fact that he's on drugs or something, and that's what he's hearing. Dang, 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 dang. And it's really, really strange choice of sound design.
That is weird. Yes. There's an amazing bit of sound design choice later on, which we'll discuss. And but I'll get to that. He escapes into through a door, and he's suddenly in a really big, swanky office. Just so happens to be Draco's office, who sat there with a girl.
I love the fact he just goes straight to his knee with a knife and throws it at him. No, he's in that stance with a knife. It's so like assassin. It's so cool because you don't see Bond do like knife throwing really.
He says, "Mr. Bond, welcome to my office."
And he's just there on one knee with knife in arm, ready to throw it.
Bond throws the knife, and it hits the calendar behind him, and he looks around and he goes, "It's the 13th today, Mr. Bond." And he says, "I'm superstitious." And he's thrown it at number 12. Bond's like, I'm superstitious.
And he just says, Bond, give me a chance, Bond. And he just starts talking to him. And it turns into like a bit of a business discussion, really.
He pours him a drink, doesn't he? He pours him out a drink, and they sit down in front of the fire.
Sorry to bring you here in force. Basically, he's like, well, yeah, I've just killed all your guys with a lot of delay.
And he says, oh, you normally drink a different type of brandy. And he's like, you know a lot about me, Mr. Bond. And he's like, yes, I do. Your name's Draco. You're the head of like the mafia. You're almost as big as Spectre. So he mentioned Spectre, which is another organisation. He says, well, I wish we could be that big someday. And then he says, like, I need to speak to you about Tracy. I understand you know my daughter Tracy, who goes by actually Countessa Teresa, but she calls herself Tracy. And he says, I know you've been looking out for her, and I appreciate the things you've done for her recently.
Bond says, like, yeah, she needs a psychiatrist.
I know, he says, oh, she's crazy.
She's crazy. But I love the fact that he says later on, I'll pay you a load of money to marry her. And he's like, she's crazy, or I'll marry a crazy person if you pay me.
He says to him, he says, she needs a man like you to discipline her, Bond. Wow.
She needs a man to make love to her till she loves him. What? So you're going to force her to make baby
your own daughter?
So you're going to rape her until she loves you? Right? Brilliant.
£1 million. £1 million to marry her.
Yeah. But she's mental.
He says, "What would I do with £1 million?" He says, "I like the bachelor lifestyle."
It's such a strange.
And then they
thing.
talk about.
But it's a bit of a ruse, though. It's not really like. Well, I don't know, because I suppose he was going to like. Okay, carry on.
He kind of fobs off that idea for now, and they start talking about Blofeld, and he says, do you know where Blofeld is?
And he says I would not tell an agent where he is, but I will tell my son-in-law.
I know. So,
desperation.
All right, I'll marry her if you tell me where Blofeld is.
So maybe ask your daughter if that's all right as well, possibly. Blimey.
Well, he ends the scene by saying, look, have a think about it. It's my birthday in 2 weeks. Come along to the party and get to know my daughter at the party. I'll introduce you guys and we'll get it all set up. And, think about that. £1 million, Bond. £1 million. Think about that, all right? Bond's like, oh, yeah, okay, see you later. So he leaves and he goes to headquarters.
Is it Moneypenny throws his hat classically onto the hat stand?
Yep.
And then he flirts to Moneypenny. I reckon Moneypenny's definitely like wanked him off at the Christmas party. There's definitely something's happened because they've flirted so much over the years. There's such a we didn't have sex, but we did stuff.
Yeah, the photocopier.
Yeah. Absolutely.
They were caught in the janitor's cupboard.
Absolutely, and she was giving him a hand shandy.
Well, they flirt outrageously, don't they? And then he goes in to see M.
Miss Moneypenny, I've trying to show you in the cupboard. Meet me there in 5 minutes.
It'll leave you shaken but not stirred. Or maybe it will. And he goes into M. M's signing paperwork. He's not interested. He says, Bond, I'm relieving you from this mission.
This M, because we get classic later on, we get Judi Dench for a long period of time for 2 Bonds, which is quite interesting. But this Bond, he just does not care. He's old school British. He's the Winston Churchill era. He's just like, fuck off, Bond. Don't give a shit about you. Just don't make a lot of mess, basically.
Yeah, he says, I'm relieving you from this mission. I don't want you anything to do with Blofeld. Don't bother with this Tracy anymore.
Go do something else.
So he leaves, and he's pissed off, really pissed off.
He's been on the case for 2 years. He's been on the case 2 years, which you'd think that has been a bit long, though.
So he goes out to Moneypenny, and he's fuming. He says, Moneypenny, take a memo. She's like, well, what's going on? He's like, I'm telling him I quit. I'm handing him my notice.
Which we see in the Daniel Craig era.
Then he goes into his office. Now, Bond's got an office. I never really knew that before. And he's got an office with all his memorabilia and awards he's won, and things like that on the wall. And he opens the drawers. He's got some of his old gadgets and knives in there and guns.
Yeah.
And he's in there, he's all cross.
Watching you, and he's like clicking his fingers, and he's all happy at his desk, looking at his jaw. Oh, that's from that mission. Oh, Bond.
Yeah,
Bond.
That's it. Like, why's Bond got a desk and an office?
There's a bowl of goulash in his drawer. That's good.
He's definitely had some Moneypenny on his desk before, I reckon.
Which Moneypenny go over here?
And then he says, he pours a drink, he looks up to the portrait of the Queen, and he says, sorry, Mom. So he's done his service, he's quit. And he gets a message. M wants to see you in his office again. So he goes back in there and he goes, "Request granted, Bond." And
it doesn't even look at him. And he's like,
thinks,
"Oh,
bloody hell." And he says to Moneypenny, "He wouldn't even give a shit that I've resigned." And she goes, "Well, you haven't resigned." And he's like, "What do you mean?" And she's like, "Well, I didn't give him the memo you said. I just told him you wanted 2 weeks leave, which is why he said request granted." And he's like, "Oh, Moneypenny, what would I do without you?" And then M comes in the room. After
no,
Bond's
don't come to the room. M's listening on the speakerphone, and he says, "M," right. And he says, "Moneypenny, what would I do without you?" So they both know, what's going on.
They love her. She's the machine that runs this, really, isn't she? Good old Moneypenny.
Spanish bullfighting in the stadium.
Yes, Tracy arrives. We got All the Time in the World by Louis Armstrong playing as she arrives at the bullfighting, and it's her dad's birthday. Her daddy's birthday, and he's organised a big bullfighting thing with a party and drinks and loads of stuff going on there. And he introduces her to Bond.
So Bond's there. So that means he's going along with this weird deal.
Well, he's on a 2-week vacation, so technically he can do what he
he's
wants.
just like, fuck it, for 2 weeks I'm going to pretend that I'm going to marry this contessa. Really, I'm just going to bone her, take some money, have a laugh.
Find out about Blofeld and get on with it.
Yeah.
So
that's his mission, though. He's trying to find Blofeld. He's been taken off after 2 years, and he's fucking like, I'm dedicated, I don't give a shit, so I'm going to go along with this crazy fucking lunatic's idea of marrying his psychotic daughter.
So Draco says, "Bond, this is my daughter, Tracy." And like, "Yeah, we've already met. Come on." And she's like very suspicious of this. She
realises she's part of the deal. She's like, yeah.
She's like, "Dad, why don't you tell James Bond, the information you've got on Blofeld? If you don't tell him, then I will. You've got to tell him this." And so he's definitely got some information on her, and they know.
Then he says, "Then that way Bond won't have any more interest in me, and it'll be over."
Yeah, and they know that Blofeld is linked to a lawyer. That's all they know at the moment. Then she goes off and she has a little bit of a cry, and it's a really sweet moment where Bond wipes her tears away at this point. And that's where they first start.
Well, this is where Bond's proving to her that he still wants to get to know her, even though he's decided she's crazy because she wanted to commit suicide the first time he saw her. Yeah, so he's starting to fall for her because he's proven that even your dad's done that. I've got the information. Look, I'm still here. I want to get to know you. And yeah, like you say, he wipes the tear and it's a bit romantic.
Yeah, and then we get a montage then of them going horse riding.
Have all the time.
And they go on dates and holidays and horse riding and all lots of other things. And they're falling in love.
Dating
they're falling in love.
Love montage.
Bond goes to visit this lawyer's office.
Breaks in like a spy bitch.
Scene. What a great scene. So he knows exactly when the guy goes on lunch.
He's got a little briefcase with his gadget, which is a safe-cracking computer.
What is a safe-cracking photocopier is what it is.
Yeah, okay.
So he breaks into the office, he opens the window, waits for his buddy, who's got a crane across the road, who delivers him in the crane a big box, and inside the box is a safe cracking machine. So while that's working, he just reads Playboy. Oh, great boobs in this issue. And then when it's finished, he takes the paperwork out, turns the machine on its side, and then it photocopies the paperwork for him.
Yeah.
It's got it all. Then he puts it away, puts it back in the crane. The guy takes it away, and he manages to get out of the office all before the guy comes back from lunch. Yeah. James Bond at his best right there.
Absolutely.
Reading a Playboy as he's walking down the corridor of this office block.
Yeah.
It's very funny. But I told you there's a reason for that Playboy. It's not just that Bond's a massive pervert. That's part of it. No. But also they wanted to pay homage to Playboy.
Tracy tells her dad, Draco, that she's actually in love with Bond. And he's like saying, is Bond in love with you? Because he's a bit like, what? This isn't a part of my plan?
And she says, he's not yet. That might come, but just let me be happy.
Oh, yeah.
Bond goes to M's house now.
Yeah.
And he says, look, I've got this letter that I got from the office.
Even though he's been like, you're supposed to be on holiday, you dickhead.
And he's like, yeah, because he's like, why are you coming to my fucking house? I'm just doing my butterfly collections.
Yeah, and he's just like, and he says to him, he starts telling him all about butterflies. So I didn't. But he stops and goes, looks up at him, goes, didn't know you're into this. He's like, oh yeah, blah 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 blah. Some butterfly words I don't know.
And he says, I'm basically going to go to this college that does ancestry, and I'm going to speak to this professor, and then I'm going to pretend to be that professor afterwards, and I'm going to go and speak to this guy that we think is Blofeld. He's using a different name, but he wants to find out if he's linked to this really rich family, and we think it's Blofeld. So it's a bit of a convoluted plot, but it makes sense when you're watching it. So he goes to this college of ancestry, and he says you should be able to meet Blofeld. He lives in Switzerland. So Bond's like, great, another holiday coming up, fantastic.
Paid holiday.
And he meets this professor who...
You'll like this one, Bond. It's in Cancun. Woohoo!
You'll be going to the moon.
Bond. This isn't Ibiza. Bond just pilling in clubs. That's the new one. That's the new Bond.
Bond and Ibiza.
Yeah, set in the 90s. And it's a young 18-year-old lad. Pilling. I've
been spending many years building up a resistance to ecstasy pills. They don't do anything to me, so he's just taking loads of them, but then he gets the bad guys to tell him loads of stuff.
Yeah.
I want to see this.
Yeah.
That's good. So we're in Switzerland. Boom. Here we are. The train arrives in Switzerland. Bond is in disguise.
Because he's going to infiltrate this place, this college that Blofeld went to, using his own Bond family tree to get into this place so he could become an actual established gentleman from this prestigious place to go to see Blofeld, to get Blofeld wants his family name put in like a crest and a crown, doesn't he? So it's like a whole thing, and it's just like, fucking hell, all right, okay, it's a little bit elaborate, okay.
But so he pretends to be Sir Hilary Bray for this whole rest of this film.
Yeah.
Now, the amazing thing about this is George Baker, who plays Hilary Bray, who we met in the college, dubs over George Lazenby's lines every time he's pretending to be Hilary Bray for the rest of this film. And that's what the interesting sound design I was going to talk about earlier. It works so well, and the lip syncing is so spot on.
So say again.
So Bond is now Hilary Bray for the rest of this film, yeah. He goes to Blofeld's Institute as Professor Hilary Bray.
Yeah.
And and the guy that played Hilary Bray that he met earlier, he said, "Yeah, you got my permission to do this." He tells him about Blofeld's earlobes and all that kind of stuff. That actor, dubs over George Lazenby's lines every time he's pretending.
When he
meets Blofeld,
I had no idea.
You notice at one point when Blofeld realizes, "I know you're James Bond," he changes back to being George Lazenby. So it just shows that Bond is such a master of disguise. He can change his voice.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah, if you listen, he's very sort of like, "Hello, I'm Hilary Bray."
I absolutely love it when he turns up at the ski resort, because we've had this, like, have you ever been to a ski resort?
No.
It's quite fun, and it's just really white everywhere, as you can imagine. It's very, very bright light, and I love that in this movie so far it hasn't been that. It's been a lot of other stuff, and all of a sudden we've just got classic Bond going to a ski resort. It's like, this is great. We're going to have some ski chases. There's going to be some shit going on. I love that, but it's a nice change to the movie.
Yeah, it's a real it's a nice transition, because he gets off the train in Switzerland. He meets Irma Bunt, who is like the Frau from the Austin Powers movies. She's like, "Mr. Bond!" Well, she's like, "Professor Bray, come with me."
And she's the one who's like, I won't spoil it yet, because we won't spoil the ending, but she's the one who instigates the ending, the badness.
Indeed. The transition then is from a train into a sleigh being drawn by horses, and then they're in the snow then, and there's a man in a VW that follows them along as well. He's Bond's buddy that's helping him out, the guy with the crane from earlier, because he gets killed later on, doesn't he?
They get a helicopter as well, don't they?
Yeah, they get in a helicopter and they go up. She says, "Up to the Alps." They go up to the Alps, and we can see, there's recent avalanche damage over there.
Is that the voice when you do your Swedish massage side job, when you dress as a lady?
Where does it hurt? I will rub you. Get the nuts out of your back.
Yeah, I trust it. I trust that voice.
Yeah. Do you feel calm now?
Yeah, really calm.
Would you like the hot wax on your back?
Wax away, baby.
Sack back and crack wax.
Maybe.
Okay. Yeah, she points out, there's recent avalanche damage there, Mr. Bray. And he looks down. And they actually wanted to use, because the Swiss government do real avalanche explosions several times a year to stop real avalanches from properly happening and causing devastation. But sadly, they'd had a real avalanche, so they wanted to get some footage from that, but they couldn't get it in because by the time they'd arrived in Switzerland to film, the Swiss government were like, oh, sorry, we already did it last week. Like, oh, you could have waited to blow up that mountain. We could have used that in this film. Yeah, sorry about that.
Yeah, shame.
But yeah, so we see some skiers and we're flying past the mountaintop residence. That's the big allergy centre there, that Blofeld, or whatever he's called, his fake name. He's working on allergies for all different people from all over the world. We'll find out more about that later.
Apparently he's trying to leave his mark in the world.
Yeah. And then they arrive up at the very top of this mountain in this lavish sort of centre. Bond is taken to see a doctor. He's like, you must be seasick, airsick. We'll take you to the doctor straight away. And they take him into his room. And he's got this incredible room and he's locked in. Why am I locked in? Well, we lock all our guests in their room. We don't want them wandering around. Basically, they don't want him shagging all the other girls, which he does later on. He goes into about 3 or 4 different rooms. And this is where we first get our glimpse of Blofeld's bald head stroking his cat.
Classic Bond.
Really cool. Bond's got his room. As I said, he's locked in. First thing he does, another classic Bond. We've seen it so many times.
Looks for bugs.
He runs his finger under all the surfaces, behind all the mirrors. Any bugs in here? Just checking.
Can't find anything.
Can't find anything at all.
He wears a kilt. Should that be a bit chilly, do you think?
Kilts are very warm.
Yeah, but...
really thick.
A bit airy though, isn't it?
If you think of Scottish people, where do they live? It's freezing fucking cold in Scotland. Back in the day, they used to wear kilts to battle.
I have to ask Tom, because Tom's got a kilt. Tom's Scottish.
I've always wanted to wear a kilt.
I'd like to
always wanted to wear a kilt.
I don't have the best legs though.
I've got great legs. I get told that a lot when I'm doing my massages.
Not nice legs. I'm thinking of her spaced.
Got very good legs.
Nice legs.
So he walks into this room
full
and
of
this
girls.
is the Enter the Dragon scene now.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's a woman from every country of the world. There's about 20 women in this room.
They just like pounce on him.
Oh my God, a man in a kilt. Oh my God, who are you? And he's like, oh, I'm Professor Hilary Bray. I'm a genealogist. Genealogy? What's that? Tell me more. And he starts telling them this boring shit about what genealogy is, the ancestry and names and, lineages.
Some of them are getting really bored. It sort of goes on. But he's trying to...
I think they're getting turned on, actually.
Some of them are quite into it. But he's trying to really get into character and stuff. Yeah, and a couple of them pay him a bit more attention. There's one particular lady, she blonde sort of curly hair. She pays him a bit more attention and gives him a bit more information.
This is where Joanna Lumley.
Oh,
this is where Joanna Lumley is as well.
Yeah, I didn't know.
She actually dubbed over a lot of the voices.
Oh, okay. We've got dinner time now at the meal, and it's really weird. We get loads of overhead shots of all the food. I don't know why.
Well, it's to demonstrate that they're all eating food that they were heavily allergic to.
Oh, right. Because Blofeld changed them from his strange words at night time when they go to sleep, which we get to.
He then gives them another really long, boring story about coats of arms and family crests. And this is where one of the girls...
He says he's got balls. My coat has 4. Would you like to see them?
And then that girl says... She says... She writes her room number on his inner thigh with her lipstick. And somebody else says to him...
so good.
How are you feeling after the helicopter flight? Just as she writes that, he goes, I think there's a slight stiffness coming on.
A slight stiffness in the shoulder.
In my inner thigh.
He's taken to Kojak, old Blofeld.
Well, and another Enter the Dragon moment is he's walking along like a catwalk along a secret underground lair, isn't it?
Yeah.
And he meets Blofeld. They shake hands, and he says, I'm here to help you learn about your ancestry. They keep talking about the fucking earlobes.
Fuck me with the earlobes. Fuck off.
Because secretly...
You didn't even need to bring up anything to do with earlobes. I wouldn't have even thought about earlobes or anything about it.
But Blofeld had his removed because he wants to pretend to be part of this really rich family tree that he can get.
Why did they think that was the way?
Cutting off.
Just do something else. So weird.
He says to him, look, I do need to talk to you for quite a long time, Blofeld, about all this boring shit that I've just told you girls upstairs. And he's like, I'm a very busy man of science. And he's like, well, look, we do need to talk. And he's like, all right, we'll talk while you're staying here. I trust you'll be staying here over Christmas. And he's like, well, I wasn't planning on it, but okay. So Bond goes back to his room, lifts up his kilt, and it's like, what did she write on my thigh? Imagine if she'd just drawn a cock.
Yeah.
Or one of those number 8s used to draw at school. The ones where you did all the lines like triangles and then it turned into a number 8 or a 3D box. But she has written the number 8, which is his room number. So he breaks out of his room.
How's it? He's got some weird stick. It's like, what? Where's that from?
It's just a ruler.
It's so easy. Just pushes it up on a door and it opens a button for the door like an elevator. It's like, oh, that's easy.
He shorts out the lock, doesn't he? Because the spark comes out and gives him a little shot. And then he does it again and the door opens. He sneaks out.
Goes and has sex with her.
No, don't forget. He's engaged at this point.
Oh, yeah. I forget all about that.
So he's engaged. So he sneaks out and goes to number 8's room.
Yeah.
There's only one reason he's going there, isn't there?
He bones her.
He gets there and there's a girl in the bed nude. Hello there.
She's a bit weird, and he blatantly takes advantage of her because she's not all there, is she? And he blatantly takes advantage.
He says, I really want to question you, if I may. She's like, no, let's just have sex. And then she says, when she lies back on the bed, you see him start moving his clothes, and she goes, it's true about what's under his kilt. And it's like, what, a willy?
Yeah.
What do you think was going to be under there?
My asshole.
Jesus. I mean, that's under there as well. After they bonk, they talk, and she says how she got there. And in the middle of that, all of a sudden, the lights go crazy in the room, and suddenly Telly Savalas starts going, you are feeling sleepy. You are no longer allergic to peanuts.
Bond's like, look around, go, the fuck's going on? And it's always like trippy purple and like whatever lights, like a big lava lamp going off on the ceiling or something.
And it cuts to Blofeld in a little studio, and he's basically got all these cassettes with different hypnosis things, and he's putting them all into the different cassette players. Right, room number 10, she's allergic to bananas. Right,
get
press play on that one.
Dude.
Room number 6.
Get someone to do it for you.
He's got them all, but he's hands-on, because later on, when he's skiing, as well. He's hands-on with everything he does.
You're wanking off ghosts.
Wankety wank. He puts the cassette in, and basically it looks like what he's doing is, to all the different girls, he's got a cassette that plays to each of them to help them with their, but he's really prepping them to be sleeper agents, which we'll find out later on, which is really cool. And the plot of this is brilliant. I just love that he's setting up all these women to be sleeper agents for him later on down the line. But they're all there just thinking they're getting cured of peanut allergies or whatever it is.
But he goes back to his room and a lady comes along, so he has sex with her. And he says the exact same romantic line to her that he said to the other one. And whatever he says to her, he said the exact same line. It's so funny.
And they all want to see this book. I want to see this book on genealogy. I've heard loads about your book on family crests.
The next day, someone says to him, Mr. Bray, has the stiffness all gone? He says, for now. And the blonde one, who he first boned, goes, hee. She's like, you don't even know that she shagged someone else after you. And he's engaged, shagged 2 people. And it's just like, oh my God.
When they all start asking him about the book, this Irma Bunn, she's like, no, you want it. I will take the book from you and pass it to each of you to share around. I don't want you going in and out of each other's rooms. It's like, it's too late, love. He's already been in one room. He's about to go in another one.
He's literally given 2 patients syphilis.
Already. Well, yeah, because he goes to the next girl's room and he's, again, tries to question her. And she's like, I just want sex. And he's like, oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Morning time, and it's they're outside and there's loads of skiing going on. And this is where we see Bond's buddy snoop him. What were you going to say?
I was going to say, Blofeld said to him now that he wants him to stay around for Christmas because Bond was going to go. And Blofeld's like, no, you can stay. And he's like, oh, okay, then I was going to go to town. Like, no, you're staying here. You can stay around here for Christmas. Like, oh, okay.
He's basically trapped
He's
him.
Dracula in him, basically, in the castle. Yeah.
And we see the glimpses of Bond's buddy who was using the crane in London earlier in the film. And he's sneaking around. And then he's trying to do some mountain climbing. And he gets caught by Blofeld's men and sort of dragged off. And says, "Oh, can't a guy even mountain climb around here anymore?" So he's he comes to a sticky end a bit later on.
Yeah.
Blofeld arrives, and just as the blonde guy's being carted off, and they're playing that game where you sort of, is it curling, where you slide the big cylinder across the ice, and all the girls are like, "Oh, yes, Professor, have another go."
Yeah, curling.
How is that sexy? How is that game sexy?
It's 1969. Things are weirdly sexy.
Okay.
Maybe they're going to come back for us.
Bond gets another girl come up to him and says, "I must see you later tonight." And he's like, "Fucking hell, number 3? Jesus Christ, all right." And this guy again is engaged. This is his third girl.
He's boning everywhere, isn't he?
So he goes into Ruby's room, but it's a setup because who's in the bed instead, Gav?
Well, luckily it's not Blofeld, but it's her.
It's Emma Bunt.
Yeah.
And I think, because Bond says, "Oh, I didn't expect you." No, he says, "What are you doing here?" I think he was thinking, "Oh, you'll do." I don't think he was bothered.
When he goes, "Oh, I was expecting you here," if she had been naked and opened up, he'd probably gone, "Yeah, all right."
And he holds a goal.
Even though I'm engaged.
That's what Bond would have said. Even though you're number 3 on this holiday. I've only been here for 48 hours and you're the third girl, but let's go for it. But Bond gets knocked out. And he wakes up next to a Christmas tree. Classic. We've all been there. Woken up next to a Christmas tree with a bold guy stood next to you saying, he says, "Merry Christmas, 007. Your cover is blown." And he's like, "Oh, bollocks." And this is where his voice goes back to George Lazenby now. And he says, "I know all about your mission. And because this is a James Bond film, Mr. Bond, I'm now going to reveal to you my entire plan." And he tells him his entire plan now, which is, these women are being hypnotized every night and they're slowly being indoctrinated and going to become sleeper agents. Then they're all going to go back to their respective countries and I'm going to give them all a bottle of poison and they're going to do my bidding. And if the government don't do what I say and give me money, then I'm going to unleash poison all around the world. Ha 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 ha, Mr. Bond. I'm telling you all of this right now.
And the poison is going to make everybody not be able to have children anymore.
Yeah.
That's the
things.
plan.
One of many things. It can be.
Oh, was it?
It can make, because he's basically perfected allergies.
Well, he said, do you remember last summer's foot and mouth disease? That was me.
Yeah, he says they're my angels of death. Wow. And I'll send them out into the world. He says I can make plants and animals infertile and humans. So he can stop like chickens from being, or like wheat from growing or whatever. Or just stop the human race if he wants. He gets taken off and locked in the gear room.
It's the mechanical
of the cable cars.
Yeah, totally. And it's a bit like, why don't you just kill him? I don't.
He says,
but that's always been a question,
Mr. Bond.
And that always a Christian Bond.
If you take a look at the window, he says, if you take a look at the window, you'll see your colleague and his colleague's dead, hanging upside down, out off the side of the mountain.
When he's in this place, it's in really beautiful shots, and it's shot very much like a Hitchcock film in that wheelhouse. Some of the angles and stuff, and he's trying to climb out of it. It's really good.
Yeah, like what's it called? What's the one where he goes up the tower at the end and he's got the fear of heights? Vertigo, yeah, like that kind of thing. And we get this nice now cutting juxtaposition between two scenes where the girls are all having a big Christmas party and they're all given a present each, and at the same time he's trying to escape from this cable car machinery. He rips out the lining of his pockets and uses them as gloves, which is very inventive of Bond. Thank God he wasn't wearing a kilt. He scales down the cable, and again it looks, with that action, it looks like I'm wanking off a giant cock, so I'll stop doing that. And he manages to kind of get on top of one of the cable cars. Meanwhile, upstairs, all the girls they all press play on a tape, and it's like, girls, you're my angels of death. You won't remember any of these instructions. Take your bags with you with your special perfume in back to your countries. And when I give you the mission on you, because they get a little mirror that's got a little vanity mirror that's every night at midnight, they have to press play on it, and he'll give them their instructions.
Yeah.
So, and he's going to get them to spray this chemical stuff wherever it is they are in the world. But then Bond manages to escape. He climbs along the cables.
He nearly falls off. I love it when he's like going along he's going just one hand and the next hand and next hand and next hand. Does all this effort for ages, and just as he's about to do it, this cable car starts rolling back towards him. He's like, trying to go quickly backwards and just manages to jump off. It's like, fucking hell. But when he jumps sideways, the editing doesn't show us how he does it. He manages to jump from cable here, round a knot to another cable. And it's just like, how? What? How? But the editing's just like, dun, and he does it. It's like, how did he jump forward and round and stay like, there's no gravity, just went round.
The editor's like, don't worry about it.
Yeah.
He just did it.
Just like, I watched that going, how? Okay, we'll leave that then.
He sneaks in back into the resort, and he's hiding behind a bush watching the girls hypnotise. He hears the plan about the perfume being the poison. He gets over to a lift.
He does knock out the guard. Hides the body.
And the girls are then herded into a cable car to get put on a bus to go back to their country. So he grabs some skis, and this is classic Bond.
The horns of the Bond theme tune start coming.
This is the first time in ages you've heard it.
Yeah, and it's just like, oh yes, and you know it's on.
Yeah, and this has been parodied.
Yeah,
in
machine gun
films.
skiing along. Yeah, it's so good.
But what's brilliant is that Blofeld. Like I said, he's hands on. He's
like, I'm getting in it. I'm on it as well. Yeah, he likes to have fun. He's like, throws his cat down. He's like, give me my skis, bitches.
Yeah. And him and his cronies chase Bond on skis, and it's
the close-ups,
really great.
The great rear projecting on the close-ups.
Oh, I love it. We're looking over their shoulder.
So good, like, yeah, it's so good.
But it's a great scene,
And
Bond.
Going ahead though, sorry to cut you off there, but how they can make it different. How like all the Bond movies with like these things which everyone knows, everyone could go skiing if they want to. But how can you make it different? Bond loses one ski. So he's skiing on one foot doing like jumps and stuff on one foot, which is just so cool to do something different with just skiing. It was such a great idea. It's such a well thought out Bond movie.
He knocks one of the bad guys off a fucking mountain, and he falls so far.
Oh, dude, man, right, okay.
Him all the way down.
He falls off to this, but other guy comes along, so he just manages to hit him. This guy falls off. I counted how long, the dummy falls off the mountain. This is, like, for me as an editor, this is fucking wild. To even have the balls to do this is out there. Cojones are huge. 13 seconds this guy falls for.
You see it fall all the way.
If I stop talking now on this podcast for 13 seconds, you're all going to turn it off. It's quite a long time.
And the screen goes for that whole way as well.
Yeah. And I was just like, we round it back, and I was like, how long? 13 seconds. And you see him hit the bottom, and it hits the...
And then
what?
He takes one of the skis off another guy.
Yeah, he hits another one. There's a little fight.
He heads back down the village.
And Bond goes to town, theoretically and physically.
He sees the bus that the girls are getting on, I presume to the airport.
Bond just fights some more motherfuckers and knocks them out.
Yeah, in a really cool setting, in a little shack full of bells.
Yeah.
And it's really cool actually, because like, it's like bong, 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 bing, bong, and like banging off the bells hanging up. It's just very different, very stylish fight scene. He escapes into a Christmas market and tries to blend in, with all the people that are there celebrating. They're searching for him. There's, for some reason, a Sid James polar bear. Did you spot this?
No.
A big polar bear. Someone dressed up as a big polar bear. And as he bumps into him and he goes...
Oh, right, okay. It wasn't actually Sid James.
I thought, what the fuck's going on? And then, lo and behold, who does he bump into on the ice rink?
Yeah, it's funny though. He's at the ice rink, and then he sits down. He's totally defeated. It's a really interesting choice of acting. I guess I don't know if it's script said he sits down defeated, because he just sits down like, fuck it. I'm almost like, I'm going to give up. I don't really give a shit. Or he's just exhausted. It's so interesting. And then he looks up and the Contessa's there.
Yeah, well, I know. I think you're right. I think he is supposed to feel that way, because he says, Tracy, what are you doing here? And she says, do you want to... she says something like, you're in trouble, I thought I'd return the favour. And he looks at her and he looks really scared for James Bond. And he says, they're trying to kill me.
Yeah, he's proper scared. And
Bond's shown that.
She saves him.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
He's not saving her. She's saving Bond. And like, how often does Bond need saving? Not very often. And she's like, she's like, I've got a car, let's go. And it's really good. They go to quickly drive to a phone booth, and the phone booth gets shot at, and he's like, oh my god, he jumps out, they get in the car, and it's not very subtle. If they're trying to be subtle, they go into an actual ice car race. Driving on the ice, like having a proper race.
A stock car racing,
it's not very subtle, but
we've seen this in Knight Rider, Dukes of Hazzard, where you
they look so sketchy.
Involved.
Some of those stunts, they look really scary. People look like they were getting banged around their heads, and some whiplash was going plenty that day.
Every film or franchise or TV show that involves a car, the A-Team, Knight Rider, at some point they've accidentally driven into one of these stock car racing things. Hey, BA, that guy's driving pretty close. I think we're in a stock car race. And they're like bashing in and out of the cars. And for some reason, Tracy is the best driver in the world. She's like speeding all over the place, bashing around.
Yeah, she's really good. Yeah.
And they end up getting out of that. They get stuck in a blizzard.
They do. They literally get stuck on in a blizzard, but they slowly get to like a house. They hide the car in a barn.
There is one line during the stock car racing where they're getting bashed around, and she looks over at Bond and she says, I hope my big N stands up to this. And he sort of raises his eyebrows like, ho, ho, ho. But yeah, they go in a barn. They're going to stay in the barn for a bit.
They hide the car.
And he says to her, listen, I'm not going to have sex with you in this barn. In his mind, he's thinking, because I've already had sex with 2 other women in the last 48 hours.
I haven't cleaned my cock.
But he says to her, because I'd rather wait for our wedding night and do it properly. 10 seconds later, they're having sex.
Fucking bollocks, mate.
3 times in 48 hours with 3 different women.
Talking bollocks.
And then he says, will you marry me? And she says, yes, of course.
Yeah.
So, all good. They bang anyway.
He confesses his love to her and stuff. And asked her to marry him, and said he'll never find a girl like her ever again. And it's like, wow, he's at this point extremely emotional for what's going on. He must be exhausted. He's still fun time to make love, good man. But he must be exhausted. And she saved him, and he's just like...
So let's put this in perspective. He's been heavily disguising his voice for 36 hours maybe, had sex with 2 random women, climbed across a cable, had a couple of fisticuffs, skied down a mountain, then been shot at, then been in a stock car race, then been shot at again, then hid in the car in a barn.
Yeah, they made some more love.
Brilliant. Man of Steel.
I tell you, I'd need a cup of tea and a sit down long ago.
Well, in the morning, Blofeld's goons find the car in the barn, but obviously Tracy and James are nowhere near. Mm-hmm. They're skiing on. They're skiing to freedom, but we get another ski chase.
Yeah, this is weird. They should be in hiding, but yet the next day they're like, we're just going to go skiing. Or are they actually on purposely skiing to get away?
Yeah, they're skiing.
Oh, right. I thought, let's go for a ski. Nice day. Then we'll come back for egg and bakey. Hey! Good.
Well, they go for a really long chase now, and all the goons are following them. There's a great moment where they jump over
very quickly,
snow
back.
plow.
Sorry, very quickly, just jumping back when they're on the blanket and the thing. There's a shot of her because of the time and the lenses that they used and the filters on the lenses. There's a shot of her where she looks, apart from the coloured makeup on the eyelids and stuff, she looks like the Love Witch. The woman looks exactly like her at one point without the makeup, like the colourful makeup. I was just like, wow, and it's because of
It
the
did look a
lenses
bit
they're
out
using.
of place.
Yeah.
It looked out of place, but it's fine.
So sorry,
I suppose they're emphasising her beauty during that moment.
Yeah.
There's a great one-liner from Bond where they're skiing and one of the bad guys falls into the snowplow.
It falls into the snow chipper.
And he gets
the wood chipper. And there's proper blood going everywhere.
And Bond says he had lots of guts.
He had lots of guts, and just goes on. It's like, oh man, Arnie must have been watching this. This is 1969. Arnie didn't make this popular till the 80s.
That was bloody as well for 1969.
It was so bloody.
And then, of course, a fucking avalanche
happens. It's like, this is such a good Bond movie. I'd love to have seen this in the cinema.
They slip and they slide through the avalanche. Blofeld assumes that Bond's dead, and he says, "Go get the girl." And they drag her body along and away. And that's it. We're back in London.
Which is strange, but yeah, absolutely, because they think Bond's dead. So, Blofeld's like with his guys, go get her body and bring her back. He doesn't know if she's alive though, does he?
No. He's in M's office and he's really anxious.
Yeah, I mean, even Blofeld doesn't know if the girl's alive, but
No.
Yeah.
And then they phone. They get a phone call from Blofeld, and basically they relay it to Bond, and they said what he wants in exchange for Tracy is a full pardon for all of his crimes.
Why? Oh, they want. That's what they want. For what reason? What are they going to do to
otherwise he'll unleash all the poison in the world and kill Tracy. And Bond says, well, we need to destroy the Swiss, the headquarters in Switzerland. That's the only way we can do this. Then the girls can't be activated. The sleeper agents can't be activated.
Yeah.
And M's like, we can't do any of that. We're not allowed to do any of that.
Bond's like, fuck you. Stick fingers up. He's Chuck Steele at them. Fuck you. Kick him in the balls.
And he goes off to see his father-in-law. Or his future father-in-law.
Possibly, yeah. And, it will be. And it says, look, I've got an idea. It's a demolition job. Kind of. Just need some helicopters. You're going to fucking love it.
You, Mr.
He's
Draco.
just got loads of money and he's like, yeah,
exactly.
Fuck it. Yeah, right, let's go.
And he's like, only if I can come along.
If I can come along with my machine gun and literally kill people. I love killing people today. It's kill people day today.
So they're then in a helicopter, Draco, Bond, and all of Draco's men.
Some of these
heading
shots,
towards the Alps.
Some of these shots are like straight out of a Vietnam film, aren't they? With the helicopter with the orange sunset going along as they go along. It's just like, whoa! All of a sudden, it just changes the movie from a 1969 movie to seeing these helicopters flying along. Because that was another helicopter flying along adjacent to the helicopters shooting it. It's not CGI. It's not green screen. These are helicopters, and it's perfectly smooth shots, and it just looks really good. Did you notice the helicopters flying?
I did.
along?
It's the production and the money that went into this. It's for the 60s is crazy.
So impressed with this film. Yeah, it's so ahead of its time in many ways.
Now, while they're heading in, all these choppers, Blofeld hadn't learned his lesson.
He's trying to get in there, isn't he?
Well, first of all, he hasn't learned his lesson. He's now telling Tracy his entire plan as well.
Right, here's my plan. She's like, I don't give a shit. And he's like, I'm going to tell you anyway.
And then I'm going to try and then have you.
I will be making love to you until you love me, basically.
Now, the choppers get warned. You're in private airspace. You're not allowed to be over these particular mountains.
told about the choppers, yeah. And they say that they're medical when they've got supplies. They've got special people here, and we don't give a shit what you're saying with what got to flow through, because it's medical supplies.
It's the Red Cross. He says, we're the Red Cross.
And they do have Red Crosses on helicopters, actually.
Yeah. So they get away with it. Blofeld makes his move on Tracy, and she says, whoa, before anything happens, I just want to watch the sunrise. And he says, yes, it's a romantic time. Let's go up and watch the sunrise then. But she knows that her dad and James Bond are coming for her. So that's why she takes him up onto the balcony. And their choppers arrive, and they open fire.
It's great.
And you know that scene where Bond slides along on the floor when he's shooting the machine gun as he's firing on his tummy? Completely came up with that on the spot. They said, I wonder if we could we rig it so that Bond slides along on his tummy shooting a machine gun? And they were like, I think we can do that, yeah. So they just came up with that on the day, and it's like such an iconic shot.
Yeah. But just before the attack happens, Contessa hears her dad's voice on the helicopter, and she knows it's her dad, so she smirks. But then she does an interesting thing. She actually kind of just makes some noise and distracts Blofeld slightly from what's going on, because they're still trying to blag that they're Red Cross. Then she says to Blofeld, why don't you come tell me about this life you want to give me? And he's like, oh, okay. And it's like trying to take him away from it and take his mind off it, because she knows she's about to be rescued, which is quite interesting. But yes, then goes straight back to the attack, which is an excellent attack.
Yeah, it really is.
I sent you that still picture of that purple light. That's where it's like a scientist throws something which just melts the glass next to him and just looks, and it's all purple smoke, and it looks so good.
Yeah. It's really cool. It's a really good assault. They sort of, storm the base, and basically their plan is get the girl. Doesn't matter about Bond. Get the girl. Wire the place up to explode, and we're out of there.
They got flamethrowers. There's a good dude with a flamethrower taking people out as well, which is just fucking ridiculous.
Bond's taking pictures of the map with his little spy camera, which shows all the locations of where the girls are with their poison.
We've got classic Bond song now, and the classic guitar Bond riff, which everyone knows.
Yep. And
Yep.
And Draco says, right, we've got 5 minutes until this mountain explodes.
It's so good with the music playing. There's just action everywhere. It's fucking brilliant.
And Bond says, I'm going after Blofeld. I'm not leaving him.
Yeah.
So he goes off chasing after him. And the others all
get to the helicopter, and she's like, I won't go without Bond. And that's Draco goes, you will, and just knocks her out.
I know. She's getting knocked out left, right and centre, this girl. Poor thing.
That means that he doesn't really give a shit about Bond when it comes down to it.
And then we get Bond doing another snowy activity, because now he decides, well, the only way I can chase him is in a toboggan.
Before that, Blofeld just jumps out of a window, and then Bond's literally chased him, jumps out of windows. Actually, like, I've had 2 years of my life, I'm fucking having you. And he jumps in a proper toboggan, and James is like, right, I'm going to jump in a toboggan too. So you imagine how hard this would be. At one point, they're trying to shoot to each other. With one hand, you're holding on, like how hard this would be to do, because you've got to brake as well, and you've got to brake at certain times, otherwise you'll fly out of the corner.
It goes ridiculous. Toboggans are so fast as well,
and generally they would know the course and at what point they need to brake and stuff. So
well, I mean, we've all seen Cool Runnings, we know how it works, don't we?
Jamaica, we now have a bobsleigh team. We
are Jamaica with a bobsleigh team. And he throws a grenade into Bond's toboggan, which blows up his toboggan. Bond then grabs on the back of Blofeld's toboggan, and it's
a really fun chase as well.
The word toboggan doesn't seem to mean anything. I've said it too many times.
Toboggan. When Blofeld's got the grenade, he pulls a pin out with his teeth, drops the grenade into his own toboggan. And he's then finds it and just throws it back, and it does. Luckily for him, not for Bond, hits Bond, and Bond goes flying out of it.
And they fight a little bit in the toboggan, and then
he flies out of it onto his toboggan. So he didn't do very well, really. He made Bond get closer to him.
And then Bond spots there's a low branch coming up, so he shoves Blofeld up.
This is the second time then Bond has defied gravity in any sense or form, and just flown to another part of the time and place.
Maybe he's got a teleportation device.
Must do.
And so he shoves Blofeld up, who gets pretty much almost decapitated by a tree.
He gets his head stuck in which I would think would have broken his neck, to be honest with you. But he gets his head stuck in a tree.
And Bond says, he's branched off. Of course he fucking does.
He's branched off. Who's Bond saying this to in the toboggan at that speed? No one, except he's laughing to his own jokes.
Just for himself. And then he flies out of the toboggan, rolls over in the snow, and a St. Bernard dog runs up to him.
Totally. Yeah, absolutely.
And George Lazenby ad-libbed this line when he says, "Get the cognac, old man. Where's the brandy? Come on." Whatever he says to the dog about brandy, that was all ad-libbed, and they loved it and they left it in.
Then we cut to him being married.
Yeah, he's in an Aston Martin.
Yeah. So that's a really incredible fucking ski resort mountain heist with helicopters, and I fucking loved it.
Yeah, we see him buy a ring. And then we see them getting married. And I pronounce you Mr. and Mrs. James Bond.
Moneypenny doesn't seem too happy. She's like, you fingered me at the Christmas party.
She is fucking furious. that her man is marrying this woman.
Q's like, well done, Bond. I thought you were a fucking idiot.
Might as well. I thought you were just a fucking slag who was
An
banging everyone.
imbecile. Look at you. Well
He
done,
actually
Bond.
married someone.
Yeah, he's really,
into money
he's
as well.
really patronising too.
Because he's married into Draco's
Yeah,
family.
yeah.
Loads
So he's
of
like,
money.
well done, Bond. You patronising.
Can I come over for breakfast?
And he says, don't worry, Q. This time I've got all the gadgets and I know how to use them.
Thanks for your special sex toys you gave me, Q. Moneypenny cries when they're cutting the cake, and then Bond goes over to her and goes, "You'll always be my girl." And she's like, "Well, have a good fucking time on your honeymoon, you bastard."
Well, this is funny. The dad cuts him a check, gives it to him. Well, he don't cut it to him. He gives him the check, and he gives it back to him. This must have been a slightly awkward conversation when Bond turned up alive, and the dad's like, "Oh, right, sorry for leaving you, dear boy. We just left you for dead. Sorry about that."
You're a 007 agent. I'm sure you can handle yourself.
He throws his hat at Moneypenny. Luckily, doesn't hit her in the face. It's not a scary movie or something like that. But and she just grabs it, and then they're like, "Oh, don't worry, Miss Moneypenny." They say to her.
Well, yeah, it's lucky it wasn't accidentally Oddjob's hat or something. You know, sliced her head off or something.
I think Q tries to get in there Moneypenny a little bit, and she's just like, "You're a bit old, Q."
He's drunk at the wedding.
He's drunk at the wedding. Come on, Miss Moneypenny.
I'm the master of gadgets.
I'll finger you in the cupboard. Come on.
And they drive off, and they discuss, we've got everything we could ever want.
And he says, "Darling, we now have all the time in the world." As they drive off, and the music's playing in the background.
Well, hang on. Then he says, "Is there what more could we want?" And she says, "Well, I'd like children. I'd like 3 boys and 3 girls." And he's like, "Huh,
that's
okay.
That's a lot of work. There could be no sex if they got 6 children on the go."
But he does say to her,
Afterwards.
"Don't worry, we've got all the time in the world, And then they stop because they got flowers all over their car. So he says, "Oh, we do look like an advert for a florist. Let's take all these off." And while they've stopped, they're joking.
Yeah, he takes a
chatting.
flower, and she says, "You've given me the best future. It's the best thing that I could have ever been given."
Yeah, and he makes a little joke when she puts the flower in her mouth. He says, "Don't eat it all at once." And she laughs. He laughs. It's all very lovely. And then another car drives by. Oh shit, it's got Blofeld and Frau Lane in it.
In a neck brace, Blofeld's driving.
And it's a drive-by.
It's a fucking drive-by.
And he says, "Oh my God, that was Blofeld, I'm sure of it."
And he jumps in the car and goes, "Come on," and looks at her, and she's been shot. And
shot in the head.
He just looks at her, takes her, she falls into his lap, and he kind of talks to her like she's still alive. And the policeman comes along, knocks on the window, and he just looks at her and says, It's all right. She's just having a rest. It's quite all right."
He says,
"We have all the time in the world.
We'll be getting on soon, you see. We've got all the time in the world. There's no hurry."
And that music's subtly playing in the background. And
he almost starts to cry.
A tear, and it just stops there. And I actually had a tear in my eye myself. Because this is my second. Listeners, this is my second time watching this film, which I know sounds ridiculous.
I can't believe that.
I know, because I only watched it for the first time about 6 months ago. No, or whenever I chose it, and I was just like, "Fuck, this is incredible." And it made me cry then, and this time it made me have a tear in my eye when I was watching it. And
the way it ends is it's a bit like John Lennon's glasses. If you've ever seen the photo of John Lennon's glasses after he got shot with a hole in them, we end and the credits roll on a windscreen with a hole in it, a bullet hole in it.
And the Bond music just goes dun, 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 and it's a classic Bond tune. It's just like, fuck. Like, whoa.
And that's the end.
Must have just made everyone in the audience go in 1969 like, what the fuck? So it's a powerful Bond.
I wonder what Connery thought.
I know, because he must have been like, fuck.
Yeah, I know.
Very fucking good.
Jesus Christ.
That's really fucking good. Yeah. And I think George Lazenby does a pretty good job. I don't know, this Bond is so good. Really is. Yeah,
it's in my top 3, along with a couple of Roger Moores, or maybe one Roger Moore, one Timothy Dalton.
It's so classic and such a fun film.
And it's self-contained.
Yeah.
It doesn't. It doesn't need.
It knows what it is.
If I was to honestly say to someone, Gav, who'd never seen a single James Bond film,
don't watch this.
Just watch that one.
It's everything you need to know about James Bond.
So in that respect, I think this might be my favourite James Bond film, and for that reason alone.
For another reason for it as well is because all the other Bonds, you know them from other movies. Sean Connery, Untouchables. I could name many movies from all these other actors have been in. George Lazenby, I can't. And there's something with that, I feel.
Yeah, it's truly a special film, particularly not just within the James Bond franchise, but just generally anyway. But
it's so
it
good.
does so many things.
I'm so happy that we could review it. You know,
it does so many things differently that are now so cliched, but it's the first time that it ever done them. It breaks the fourth wall. Bond gets married,
and you can watch it okay because if you watch, it's like my kids when they watch a 80s slasher movie, they just go, oh god, sort of thing, because they know the cliches, because they've been cliches, they've seen the movie, so they're going back going, oh, that's such a cliche. I was like, no, this first happened. But with the Bond film, going back to that, you don't look at that and go, oh, you're like, yeah, this is the first time it happened, but you're quite happy because it looks genuine, unique, and made with passion and love. It's such a good film. If you haven't watched this, listeners, I'm going to say watch it, but if you're not a Bond film, obviously don't really bother. If you're a Bond film fan, have never seen it, check it out. Thumbs up.
Huge thumbs up from me. I've just checked, actually. Connery was offered this film, but the studio couldn't pay what he was asking. He was asking for 1.25 million, which was obscene amount of money in 1969.
Probably didn't want to do it, but then he came back though later on.
He did.
Which I don't even have that in my Bond collection because I've got a very lovely Blu-ray Bond collection book thing, but I don't have that in it because it's not an official broccoli family movie.
Yeah, it's weird. But there we go. James Bond on Her Majesty's Secret Service. We finally got to chat about a Bond film, Gav.
Woohoo!
For your birthday as well.
Thanks for joining us for this one, guys. I know that was about an hour and a half, that review.
But it's fucking worth it. And the film is quite long, but it doesn't feel like a 2 hours and 20 minute movie. It flies by,
kind of
really.
flies by, and it's so I really like this film.
And for the last thing I'll say is for such a what seems like quite a convoluted plot, it's quite easy to understand and know what's going on and why Bond's going. Because some of the Bond movies, you're not sure quite why he's flying to this country and that country and this, that, and the other. You know, same with some of those Mission Impossible films. They're fun to watch, but you're not always sure why the characters are doing what they're doing. But in this, it's quite straightforward, really. Brilliant stuff. Well, shall we?
Let's
fuck off and come back for the outro.
Yeah, let's get out of here. We'll be back in real soon. We are back.
We're back with a license to kill.
Like The Ring.
Brilliant. Yeah, or The Grudge.
Grudge.
Don't watch that new Grudge film. It's shit.
Gav,
that was your birthday episode. Happy birthday.
Thank you.
To you. I'm glad that we had a lot of fun with this one.
I'm glad we're both dressed again now.
Yeah. Well, I thought it was time to put some clothes on. Bill Murray, however, is completely naked now. But that's a tale for another time.
Yeah.
That was episode 170, your birthday episode. Fun and game.
Thanks for coming along and doing those movies for me.
Yeah, well, I love a bit of Bond, so
and a bit of claymation.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
Why the fuck not? Well, what's coming up next?
What's coming up next?
Our next episode, 171, will be a director special.
Okay.
Mr. Peter Jackson's Step On Up. We will be covering Bad Taste from 1987.
That means this weekend I've got to watch Bad Taste. That's not a bad thing.
And The Frighteners from 1996.
Nice. Frighteners would be really interesting to watch as a reviewer because the last time I watched it, I was a bit like, meh. But I always did like it. It's really interesting. But I got rid of it. I had it on a collection in my DVD collection. Got rid of it. But be interesting watching it again as a reviewer. And I did like the fact it's his first foray into Hollywood, and Michael J. Fox is the star.
Love Michael J. Fox.
So I quite like Peter Jackson and Michael J. Fox. It's a strange one, but it's quite pleasant and homely in a way.
Some good effects in that as well. And then after that will be our lovey-dovey Valentine's special. Episode 172 for Valentine's.
Sexy.
We'll be doing some sexy, horny alien stuff with The Species from 1995.
Nudity everywhere.
Horny alien on the rampage.
People pissing on the stage, I don't know, just don't care.
Wow. And we'll be pairing that up with one you've selected, which I've not seen, The Loved Ones from 2009.
Yeah, and it's quite good, so don't watch it before, obviously. I doubt you will. So it's fresh for your reviews. It's. I've not seen it for a long time. It was a bit of an independent horror movie. And yeah, I remember thinking this would be quite good for Valentine's.
There we go. So Species and The Loved Ones. And that means after that, episode 173 will be another patron big. And the man that started it all, Matthew Godley, has selected a couple of well, I don't even know how we talk about them really, but we are going to be reviewing Spookies from 1986.
I don't think I've seen it.
Wow, you're in for a crazy.
I don't know.
Fever
the
dream.
Name. I feel like maybe I have. I don't know. I know that name, and I think I know the cover, but maybe I just know the cover really well. And that name's a great name.
You're going to be watching it.
What's it about very quickly?
Let's do the synopsis for you very briefly.
Excuse me.
And he's given us that as an appetizer, and I'll let you know what our main course will be in a moment. Let me just bring up.
But Spookies, I definitely remember that it's a word that you can visually remember.
Spookies from 1986. It says, a wicked sorcerer tries to sacrifice a group of people inside his house with the intention of using their vitality to keep his wife alive.
That's not what I thought the movie would be about. I thought it would be about something spooky. Okay, I have no idea then. So I'm really interested in watching some mid-80s horror.
And we'll be pairing that up with, brace yourself, Stanley Kubrick's A Clockwork Orange.
Oh, shit.
I know. That's going to be a conversation.
That's going to be good. I had a Blu-ray copy which I gave Sarah, so that's fine.
Yeah, so we're going to be, setting things up with a bit of Spookies, finishing up with Kubrick. So yeah, that'll be our second Kubrick movie after The Shining, which is a long time ago.
I think that's going to be a really interesting conversation for 2025.
Yeah, definitely. Kubrick famously banned the film himself in the UK. So that's what's coming up. Episode 171 is Peter Jackson, 72 is Valentine's Day, and episode 173 is Patron Matthew's picked Spookies and Clockwork Orange. Stick with us. We've got lots of fun to come throughout. Let's do some admin housekeeping, and then we can say our goodbyes, Gav.
Goodbye.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
Goodbye. No, we're not going to say just goodbye straight away. But as always, we've been the podcast on Haunted Hill. Thank you to everybody for listening, sticking with us, supporting, downloading, doing all the things that you do.
Thank you.
We are and have always been a proud member of Legion Podcast Network, and we also come under the Deadbolt Media umbrella. If you want to find out more about Legion Podcast, just go to legionpodcast.com. You can find out more about all the other shows on the network.
Of shows, tons of shows, in fact. Tons of shows. It's updated regularly. It
is. And all of our past shows are on there, episodes are on there, as are all the other shows. Yeah. We are emailable, if that's a word. You can email us. Our email address is thepodcastonhauntedhill@outlook.com if you want to message us. You can also message us on Facebook. Just message me directly. Or we are on Facebook under the Podcast on Haunted Hill. That's our page where our family of weirdos live and have lived for almost, just over 11 years now, which is crazy. Got some real good friends on there. Legion have their own Facebook page as well, Legion Podcasts. Just search for that. And wherever you're listening to us now is where you can always find us. Podcast platforms such as Spotify, YouTube, Podknife, Podbean, Apple, Podcast Addict, and many, 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 many more. We're on Instagram. Our handle is the podcast on Haunted Hill Insta. Deadbolt Media is our production company. Deadboltfilms.com is the main website. We have a YouTube channel, which is Deadbolt Films, and we have an Instagram handle, which is Deadbolt Films, all one word. If you want to know more about the feature films, the short films, the comics, this podcast, Gav's other podcast, the High Strangeness Show, and many, many other little projects that we've got coming up, including music videos and this, that, and the other, please, we're currently finishing up our film, Amanda.
Yeah. That's pretty much finished. Just waiting for one more role just to be cast. Someone's looking at it at the moment, and possibly get that finished, knocked out, and probably release that this year on YouTube. I think we're just gonna let that go because we've got a lot of other things on the go, which is like really important. Not saying this is not important, but it's not something which we can. There's no point sort of dedicating trying to sell it. It's a found footage film which we made ourselves, which fucking stars me. So
just want to get it out there now.
Just put it out there. But yeah, if you like found footage, I think you'd dig it.
And finally,
but we've got some other cool things on the go. And yeah, the High Strangeness podcast. Check out that with me and Sarah. Continue, Daniel.
I was going to say, and finally, if you want to support us in a different way, we are on Patreon. So just go to Patreon and search for the podcast on Haunted Hill, or you can email me again if you're struggling to find it, the podcast on Haunted Hill at outlook.com, or message me on Facebook. Don't have to do it at all.
No. And we totally appreciate you doing it. And thank you for everyone who does do it. It's massively. Very quickly, we're also currently right now, there's a Kickstarter fund going for the new comic Devil Girl, which is Ben's own comic. He has drawn it, the whole thing himself.
It's a bit naughty in places.
That's doing okay. So if you want to jump in and get a copy, do that. So yeah, it's really cool. We've got all these different comics coming out. We went to film last weekend. We filmed a promo for Abyssal Albion, which would be issue 4. That's the longest going comic. That's one that Tom started first of all.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're going to have, I think this year we'll have, if you're into comics, do check out what we've got going on. This year I think we'll have 4 different series of comic stories going along.
It's amazing.
Different artists, different writers from around the world.
And if you want to support this show, the podcast on Haunted Hill on Patreon, then you can do so. You don't have to do it, but we appreciate anyone that does it. For as little as £1 or $1 a month, you can support us to help us continue to grow the show, buy things that we need, rent films, buy films to review, all that kind of stuff. There are perks to doing this. You'll get a t-shirt in one of 3 colours sent to you wherever you live. You'll also get to have your go at Patron's Pick. So every 3 episodes is a patron pick, where our patron in rotation will get to pick the 2 films and tell us if they want why they love those films, why they want us to review them, favourite bits from them, that kind of thing. And you'll also get exclusive access to all of our shows through Patreon. We release one of our old shows every Freaky Friday until we're almost caught up now, actually. So it's 170 episodes it will be soon on there. So,
but that does mean, if anything ever happened to the feed, if you had a Patreon access, you could listen to all the episodes anytime you want, in any order you choose.
Indeed, and occasionally we release exclusive content only on there.
There's the little videos
and this, that, and the other.
Yeah, there's a couple of videos. Video reviews I've done. And Dan and I have done some audio reviews of just random films, which stuff that you've not heard. But if you want more podcast content, come support us.
Yeah, and finally, you'll get a shout out, which I'm going to do now. So to all of our patrons, we thank you very, very much. You all have a license to Patreon. I won't say kill, because I don't want you to kill unless they deserve it. So thank you ever so much to Dante, Don Collier, Matthew Godley, Jamie Jenkins, Kevin S. Fife, Sarah Kay, Rachel, RJ McCready, and Lex Boo. We thank you all very, very much from the bottom of our hearts.
I really appreciate it. It means the world.
Thank you to everybody that listens, supports, goes on Facebook, shares, suggests and whatever else it is you do to support us.
Yeah.
Year 11 is going well. Gavin,
yes.
We finally got to talk about James Bond.
James Bond.
James Bond, License to Kill. Yeah, well, it's a shame it wasn't Connery, but you can't really do it. It's hard to do a Lazenby impression, so there we go.
My friend used to have do you remember back in the day? This is old school now. My friend parents used to have a tape answering machine, and you could get like comical tapes, which would be your answer phone message when people would leave a message. They'd ring up, and one of them was hi, this is Bond, James Bond. Miss Moneypenny's gone to spend a penny, so I'm filling in.
Oh, God.
Beep. It was like, what the fuck? And that was one of his things. And his parents would leave it for their friends to ring up on the answer phone and get like comical like answer phone messages.
Oh, dear.
So, back in the day.
Yeah, but people are still doing that now. Like Andy Serkis gets approached and asked to record like a voicemail as Gollum and things like that, you know, and he does it at like conventions and that, you know, because it's just funny, isn't it? Really, I'd get Liam Neeson to do the Taken thing, you know. I don't know who you are. I don't know why you're phoning this number.
I don't think Liam Neeson was going to want to do that, and he's going to be like, "Fuck off."
He'd be like, "Go fuck yourself," and I'll be like, "Oh, that will do." Yeah, there'll be some funny ones. Cage would be a good one. Getting Nicolas Cage just screaming down the phone.
Yeah, no, I don't.
Christopher Walken, any of these guys. But anyway, enough about answer phones. Let's say our goodbyes and our good nights. It's a goodbye from 58 women that Mr. Bond has slept with.
It's a good night from Bond, James Bond.
It's a good night from George Lazenby, who loves a good punch-up and looks great in a kilt.
It's a good night from fucking Chuck Steele.
And his boss, Captain Jack Shit.
Oh, that's so good. Such a contrast movies, but it's brilliant.
Well, I've got similar contrasting films coming up for my birthday episode in April, but I'll keep that quiet for now.
Anyway, it's good night from Dan and I. Everybody be safe in the world.
Be safe in the world. Wear your kilts proudly. And if you get the chance, sneak around a Swiss mountain, banging women in different rooms.
And flashing your bits under your kilt. Good night. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Thank you for listening to the podcast on Haunted Hill. We will be back again real soon.